Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled PGUSD board meeting. It's December 16th. Roll call, please. Here.
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 Assistant Superintendent.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Porras, do we have any additions, subtractions, changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, Mr. President.
Board members?
No changes here.
Okay. Hearing none.
I'll move to present or accept as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Brian Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Are we doing, well, we posted them, so everything's roll
Yeah,
call.
we're posted, so we need to, yeah.
Yeah, that's what-
Yeah.
Roll call,
Let's-
please.
Trustee Pat,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Okay, so board, the rule is if you write it down that you're gonna have a roll call, thou shalt have a roll call,
Yeah.
whether or not if 5 of us are sitting here or not.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
No,
it's-
it is
it's-
not your apology, Frank and I, whatever his name is. We
We'll do the Brian
discussed
Ralph
this actually at the agenda meeting, whether or not to take them all off, and decided against it at this point. So we do roll calls tonight. Taylor B. Okay, we will move into closed session. In closed session, we will discuss PGTA, planning and preparation for negotiations. We will discuss CSEA, planning and preparation with negotiations. And we will discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaints. Any public comment? I see none. Anybody online yet? I see none. Okay, we will reconvene in a little while here. 6:48, we're returning from closed session, and please do accept my apology for being so late in coming back. It is entirely on me at this point. I started the meeting late and haven't caught up. So in closed session, we had information about planning and preparation for negotiations with PGTA. We had information for planning and preparation for negotiations with CSEA. We had discussions on employee discipline, dismissal, release, and complaints. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Eric, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, here we are in December, back to the annual organizational meeting. And it is always a bittersweet moment for sure, as we do a little bit of a transition for our board in reorganizing as to who the president and the clerk will be, as well as confirming the times of the meetings and so on and so forth. And I'm starting the meeting at this point because we do need to move through an election for the office of the president. I am not running for that office. I'm a staff member, so I'm out of it. So the first item here under the organizational meeting is the election of the president. It's a one-term period for our school district as per our board bylaws. Any nominations for this office do not require a second. A person may self-nominate, and the person that arrives at the majority vote earns the office. And at that point, then I'll hand the gavel over, or there's a gavel over there. We'll figure that out and move on to the next election. So if I may, again, looking at this point for a nomination for a representative to serve as the president of the board, beginning at this meeting to serve for one period term.
I would like to nominate Christy Dawson, please.
Are there any other nominations? Very well. So we'll go ahead and move to the vote then. At this point, we do not require a roll call vote. The majority vote is fine. All those in favor of Christy Dawson to serve as the office for the president for 1 year term, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? So it sounds like 5-0 vote. Congratulations, Madam President. Thank you. And it's all yours now.
Should
So
should I say something? A year ago, this happened and I was in the emergency room
That's right.
as it was happening. And little did I know how very ill I was. And I missed that night and a week later, I was back in the emergency room. Anyway, I was so darn sick. I couldn't even entertain moving forward with everything. So I'm healthy now. I've been working out, eating my vegetables, and I'm delighted to be here. And thank you to everybody on the board. I appreciate it. So next we'll move on to the election of Vice President Clerk to serve for a one-year period. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Dr. Frank Rivera, please.
Okay, any others? Okay, since we have that, we'll go ahead and hear, how did you do it? Everybody say aye? Okay, let's do that. Everybody say aye. Who's in agreement, please? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody no? Abstaining? Okay, we have a new clerk, Dr. Frank Rivera. Welcome. Yes, we'd like to hand
You're in a
you
little chocolate.
a little chocolate because you're special.
I
If-
never
if
got
Madam-
a chocolate. Nobody.
Madam
gave me-
President, if I may.
Yes, please.
This will be one of many interruptions that I'm sure I'll make.
I will need them, I'm sure.
But I wanted to take just a moment before we move to the rest of the items, because I think it's the appropriate time to do this. I want to honor our outgoing president, John Paff, for the work that he's done. And John is no stranger to the office of the president, and certainly no stranger to the board, and no stranger to me in terms of watching the work that he's done from my vantage point. And having a former trustee in the audience here as well, she knows the duties of the president are not soft. They're not light. It takes a lot of work, a lot of research, trying to find balance. And probably more than anything else is to keep the eye on the prize. As Dr. Rivera so often says, it's about the students. And in the minutia and in the confusion of things and in emotions, sometimes it's really hard to keep that. One of the, as superintendent, one of the pieces that I admire greatly about John and his service is that he has always kept his eyes very squarely on students, regularly asking how it affects students in their lives, regularly asking me in private, sometimes with a phone call, checking in on students individually, checking in on staff members individually, sending them a kind note outside of the work. And yeah, I admire the work that you've done, John, and our district is so much better for your leadership. And if I may, I'm going to share this quote because I came upon it actually about a month and a half ago, and I was thinking about you as I read it. And it comes from a musician who's also a lyricist and a poet. And it reads, "Rare is the man whose thoughts and concerns about the world around him, the injustices he sees, or the compassion he feels for others shakes the very foundations of his being, enough so that it changes the very trajectory of his own sacred thoughts and being." I think that really does apply to you. You have your convictions and what you believe, but what you see around you oftentimes shakes you in your compassion. And that has served a lot of students greatly. Thank you for your service on behalf of the district. And you get to collect all of these now. So I'll pass you along the gavel that has your name on it and a little mortarboard at home. Late at night, you can organize your own board meeting.
Yes,
Or John speaks. So I think I've done 2 terms now with you as clerk. I don't think there's anybody in this district who has set their foot on more corners and square footage of the properties that encompass the district than you. You know more of like
I'm chasing my dog.
of what happens and where it all is than anybody. And I admire that. I am in awe of your knowledge of what happens. And you answer those texts at 11 or 11:30 or midnight, sometimes when it's about school district related stuff, and sometimes when it's about my favorite band. And again, I admire how professional you've been. I admire your dedication. And I appreciate the friendship that you've offered over these years and the guidance that you've given this district. So John, thank you so much. You're an admirable character. I've learned to listen more carefully because sometimes you're a low talker. but I've learned that among many other things from you. So thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Brian.
And I want to add on to that. I don't see him not being president again, because 3 of the 4 years I've been here, he's president. It's like, that's just how it goes. And you stepped in last year, which was, I was so grateful for. I absolutely concur with you. The idea of institutional knowledge is this man. I mean, every staff member, everything that's happened, he retains. I have trouble remembering breakfast. So I look to him for those things, and he gives it. And ultimately, I think one of the nicest thing is not only just his savvy as far as how things should go in a board meeting, but it's your heart that absolutely kills me. You are such a teddy bear. And even though you're gruff, I don't know what you say about 40% of the time. And I'm sitting 1 foot from him, but it's inspired me to know I need to retire because I'm so old and I'm going, but you're wonderful. And you've been nothing but a blessing for this district and the kids. So thank you so much. Yes, please.
I'll be very brief. We got a long packet tonight. I just want to say thank you so much. As the newest member of this board, John has consistently called me just out of the blue, just asking, do you have any questions? How are you doing? Is there anything I could do to help? And I just want to concur with everything that has been said, especially with the amount of knowledge that is just sitting in that one seat. It's just phenomenal. And it's just a valuable resource. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the help so far. And I hope I still get a lot of it.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay, I still look to him. I can't help it. All right. So C is the determination of dates and time and location of the regular meetings. It has been the first Thursdays of each month as regular board meetings. And we switched the time not long ago to the 6:30 start as because of the length of the meetings, and hoping to kind of help out staff people who are up early the next day and working so hard. So any comments about keeping that the same way, or we just do it?
It's up to the board in terms of what you'd like to do.
Yes, should we do our just little secret thing?
Yes.
Do we need to roll call it?
Well, if there are no changes.
Public comment. John's gesturing. Any public comment? Started at 3:15 or anything?
Looks
There's
like
some public
one, somebody
comment?
online.
Yes.
Hi,
Hello.
Joan Walkin, and thank you for bringing that up. I was just wondering if it's possible to have the board meetings, which are so informative, at a more parent-friendly time, such as the weekends or Saturday mornings. I know that might not be popular, but I was just curious because a lot of people work.
A lot of people do work, and the people that we're representing directly right now are staff people who work Monday to Friday for the district, obviously, or there are weekend duties at times, but I don't know how we could ever ask them to come in on the weekends. And that's why we've gone to this virtual stuff, and you have access, people do have access. That you'd be not able to make public comment at the time, but you would have access to these meetings and to follow them at your own leisure if you can't be here.
I think you make a good point too, President Dawson. It's like the meetings require a lot of the staff too, who are already, and most certainly over the last year and a half, given so much more, and to ask them to come into board meetings on the weekends really has nothing to do with my fishing on Saturday and Sunday mornings. Really, it doesn't.
Despite,
But I'd like those Thursday meetings, and it still requires a lot of the staff to hang around later. As much as I would love for there to be more ability for the public to access, I think, especially with the online option now, you can get online and you can watch from your phone or your kitchen while you're making spaghetti or whatever it is. So
Yes, another comment? Okay,
Thank you for that. And I totally agree with you about staff resources and respecting that. I do still think it's important to allow the public to have public comment access during the evenings after work. So if that's possible, I would love for you to consider it.
I'm not sure I understood what you're asking. They have possibilities now, so I'm not sure what you mean.
My apologies. Maybe there's some confusion. Did you say that the meeting was starting at 3?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, it will, we are going to stick with the same time of 6:30. That's half an hour earlier than previous years to accommodate schedules of staff and make it a little easier with the end time.
Perfect. My apologies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other public comment? Okay, so do I have a motion for this?
Motion to approve?
Okay, so moved by Dr. Frank Rivera.
Second.
Okay, by trustee Swanson. Carolyn, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
Okay, so the motion carries. Next, D, adoption of resolution number 1081, designating authorized agents to sign school orders. So the recommendation is from Dr. Ralph Porras, Song Chim Ben Deb, and the Assistant Sup. And the admin is recommending that the Board of Education adopt this resolution as authorized agents to sign school orders. Public comment, any comment anywhere?
I make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Paff, seconded by Dr. Rivera. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Pat,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
The motion carries. Next, we have designation of committee representatives, the Monterey County School Board Executive Committee Liaison. This is something that I've done for the last couple of years. I love doing it. I'm actually serving as the vice president, so I would appreciate staying there if that's feasible at this time. Does that work? Any comments?
That's fine by me.
Okay.
So do we need to nominate you as the representative?
I would say yes.
Oh, I would
Vote
like
you in.
to nominate President Christy Dawson as our representative.
Second.
Okay, so moved by the Swansons. We'll have not related, as we say. So trustee Brian and trustee Carolyn. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Pat,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And again, I will continue to report out information that comes in from the county. It's been a nice thing for me to be involved with. I just appreciate it. So now we'll move on to written communication. In the last couple of weeks, we have a letter regarding health and safety effects of white supremacy. We got some correspondence from Philip Mueller for the California Electoral Guide, a parent regarding inaccuracies to the board about PGMS, the music program. Another parent regarding SAT and ACT possible offerings within the district. And finally, today, I think we got a letter regarding crossing guards, and there may be an increased need that we should be aware of. Is there anything else, anybody?
I have a couple, but I'm happy to keep them for my board comments unless you want them right now, President Dawson.
You can do them now.
Okay. I had got an email about concern regarding a person passing out anti-vax information, I should say anti-vaccination information in front of Robert Down. I got a email from a newly appointed board member outside of our district, and those are the ones I wanted to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Now we'll move on to board member comments. And we can, oh yeah, please, may we start with you on what's going on at the high school?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So we are.
Frank,
She
would
needs
you
a
be
mic.
kind enough to pass your mic over?
We want to make you feel included.
Thank
There you go. Now we can hear you.
This week is finals week. So we had our holiday spirit week last week. That way it wouldn't get in the way of finals. We had holiday attire with hats, socks, everybody was dressing up. It was really fun. We had our lunchtime games. The week before, I actually just got back from Washington, D.C. I went on a school trip with the close-up program. There was probably 20 of us, a little over 20 maybe. And it was really fun. We had a jam-packed schedule. We went to lots of Smithsonian's and tours, and it was really cool to be a part of. And yeah, that's it.
Well, that's a lot. I'm glad you got that trip. Okay, so board members' comments, and we'll start down with you, please.
Okay, I'll try to make it real quick. I had an opportunity last night to stop by the middle school for some fine music after I emerged from the gym. I kind of just snuck in the back because I was in no way, I should not have been out in public given what I was wearing, but I did sneak into the back and it was fabulous. And speaking of showing up in places not wearing what I should be wearing, Mandy Ackerman, who I know is going to be going on an extended leave, has seen me at not my best many times, but many of you know Mandy's, and I don't want to steal somebody else's thunder, but many of you know that she's taking an extended leave. And I just wanted to thank Mandy for always just to say that she's been on point and on top of things is the absolute understatement of the year, if not the decade. And her tolerance and poise and professionalism is beyond compare. So I wanted to just thank you for all of that and your tolerance and being on top of everything, because you are a remarkable person and an incredible parent and an absolute professional. So thank you so much for being there. Appreciate you.
Caroline?
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple comments tonight. One of them is, I'll just jump right in. So I'm hoping that the board can kind of discuss including a safety debrief type of document or report that comes to us after we have an emergency situation in our schools, whether it be a drill or a actual emergency. I think this can help us prioritize our Measure D funding, and I think that this can also help us fulfill our board goal related to school safety and student and staff safety. Currently, we get a quarterly safety report from Director of Safety, Barbara Martinez. But I would like to see something more robust when it comes to specific site safety and areas that we can improve upon. And I can go into, I'm actually not going to go into all the details that I hope would be in that report, because this probably isn't the best time, but I did want to mention that I do think it would be prudent for us to get something like that. And, the CSBA, the annual California School Board Association conference took place earlier this month. Some of it was in person and some of it was virtual. I opted to attend the fully virtual option. It was actually quite nice to attend. I felt like I was there, even though it was just a virtual meeting, and the breakout sessions that I opted for were mostly related to family engagement, community engagement, and advocacy within our district to either advocate outside of our district, further up at perhaps county and state levels, or also how to kind of advocate at a kind of micro local level within our community. So that was really interesting to me, and I'm thankful for the taxpayers for paying for my ticket to attend that virtually. So thank you to every member of the public for that. Oh, and then lastly, last night I virtually attended again a board meeting that took place in the Spreckles district. And I wanted to bring this up because they have they're in the news right now for a particular incident. And the meeting last night that took place was contentious. They had security there. It was related to their Gay Straight Alliance club that they have on their campuses. And I just wanted to say out loud to our students, our staff who are LGBTQ plus, that I see you, I support you, I hear you. I hope that you feel welcome in our district to be yourself. And let's see. Oh, and also, if possible, for staff to kind of keep an extra eye on our students during this time, because there were some major media outlets that were there as well. And I think that might be coming out kind of in the media, and it would be prudent for us to just kind of keep an eye on our kids. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Dawson. So I had the absolute pleasure of hearing two of our choir concerts, and Mr. Mazur did a fantastic job out on the field. That was a lot of fun, and it was great to see everybody there simultaneously. And then the Bulwers at the high school really did a terrific job, and I am always thankful when I can go see such things. I too went to CSBA in San Diego, and appreciate the ability to go there and concentrated on a couple of things. I only want to talk about two. One is the Brown Act, which eventually I don't think I'll ever understand fully. I mean, it's just complexities and things change. And AB 361, which I had a long discussion about whether or not there's a bitter poison pill in that, which I think there is, but I think I'm the only one in the state, but that's okay. And also on housing and how do we house and what sort of discussions. And frankly, that was very interesting. Berkeley and LA Unified presented. And the most interesting thing there was the concern that I have was brought up, not by me, but they didn't have solutions. And this is a $18 billion district with full-time staff, and they don't know what happens when somebody leaves the district. How do you work with district housing in that? And that's a real concern. With that, Mandy, I agree. I can't say it better than Brian. But thank you.
Dr. Frank?
Thank you. So I also attended the CSBA AEC, California School Board Association Annual Education Conference down in San Diego, and it was amazing. There were so many breakout sessions that were slotted at the same time, and I couldn't figure out which one to choose. I've learned so much, and I'm already applying what I've learned. So thank you to Pacific Grove for sending me down there. I promise that it was money well spent. And I will bring all that knowledge back. And as I mentioned, I've already been applying it. One of the keynote speaker, Dr. Victor Rios, was talking. He was in a gang, and he was a buddy of his got shot, and it was a teacher that dragged him out of that lifestyle and then gave him this new life where he went on to earn a PhD. He's written a couple of books. This is an amazing speaker and so inspiring. So you teachers, you make a huge difference. You really do. And sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. So, and I know in this school district, our students are really lucky to have you, because I know you treat each and every student as if they are special students, and you are special faculty for doing what you do. So thank you. There's a lot of those victors in your classrooms that I know we don't live in a neighborhood that he did growing up, but we don't know the struggles they all have. So thank you to our faculty. and staff, everyone involved in our children's education. Then I returned to Pacific Grove, and I didn't attend, but heard about the successful vaccine clinic at Robert Downs. So it's nice to see that it TikToked in that way. And then soon after that, by invitation by Miss Sally Richmond, I was able to see the robotics club. And man, I was really impressed with that. And I am actually wearing a pin that I got from them. They're team number 5104. And this team goes to 4 competitions, 2 in-season and 2 off-season competitions. And there's a Monterey Bay competition coming up this spring. And we will receive an invitation. And I encourage all of us to attempt to go see that, to go see a robotics competition. Will be amazing. It was really neat. Oh, I also walked away with from the 3D printer, this really cool octopus. So
Wow.
come check this out. But it was really amazing to see the kids working together. And I was led around by, I believe she's a senior, Annika Keller, walked me around and showed me everything, showed me the robot that the newcomers come to learn the basic fundamentals. And I went to go see the CAD room where they're designing on the computers what's going on, the 3D printer I mentioned. It was just, I mean, you guys know me, I'm a STEM faculty myself. So I was just, it was an awe. It was really, truly amazing to see that. Also, at the end, I had a brief discussion with their coach, Roby Hyde, and also a representative mentor from Microsoft. They sent Microsoft, Mr. Tommy Howell came down, and they both spoke about the amazing things they saw in that club. Students who are normally shy, the students that we see that are soft-spoken, more introverts, come into that program, that club, and they open up and they feel comfortable and they work as a team, and people welcome them and they help them and they contribute in a positive manner. So it's a way to build that confidence as well. I was very impressed with what I saw there. Thank you so much for the invitation. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm just delighted. It's the first time we've all 5 been sitting here. And I think the time we'll save with not hearing and repeating and not hearing and freezing, the meetings will be much shorter. So that's wonderful. I'm just happy we're all together so far. And Mandy, I have to wrap it too. I'm telling you, when I started as a trustee, you're just a deer in the headlights and you're trying to assimilate all this information, and Mandy is a conduit, and her support of Dr. Porras is unbelievable, and it's a dynamic that works perfectly. So anytime I've ever called her and needed things, which is often sometimes, she is there without question, with a chipper attitude and a good sense of humor and a work ethic like no other. So we'll miss you. I'm hoping, you said earlier today you plan on just showing up all the time, and I'm going to hold you to that. Even though this leave schmeeve, forget it. All right. So thank you. Thank you on behalf of the board and everything you've done for everybody. All right, we'll move along. We have a wonderfully thick packet, so we're just going to get things done. So next, superintendent's report, please.
Oh, what I'm hearing is keep it short. Yes, I will. I only have a couple items that I do want to share. Everything else that the trustees mentioned that I participated in, I really appreciated. I just 2 things. First off, I just want to wish all of the staff out there, and families included, just a wonderful, peaceful, blessed break. This has just been a crazy year, and you know, it's hard to quantify it, hard to qualify it. I keep talking about, well, I keep thinking of an event going, God, that was a couple weeks ago, and then it turns out it was like yesterday. It just keeps piling on, and I know that there are stressors for everyone, whether it's certificated, classified, administration. So we sent out, Song and I sent out an email earlier, but we really do sincerely mean it. I hope everyone has an opportunity to decompress a little bit, to be close to your loved ones, and just take a moment of pause, board members included, so that we can come back refreshed for the new year and continue to address the challenges that are ahead of us. I I'm emotional too, so I want to be careful with this one. But Mandy, you know, 15 years, I've only had 2 administrative assistants, and Mandy was the
Wow.
second. And so she came in and just ruled the roost. Just did a tremendous job. Her footsteps were as loud and clear as fast as her mother's down the hallway. And but I think you said it right, Trustee Dawson. Just the consummate professional. Just it didn't matter what was going on. I knew I could count on you to be there, to be ready with an answer. You address the public so pleasantly. You're stern when you need to be, but you're still very polite about it. And you're just so compassionate about the students. You oftentimes would just bring up stuff that we'll talk. Occasionally I'll just go to my doorway and we'll talk for a while and bring up what's going on with students or concerns about staff members or something. And you just have your heart for everyone that's here. The work just gets done, but the work is the work. It's what people bring. And you have brought a legacy to the district. And you made this office very, very proud. And we're gonna miss you for a little while, but I know you'll be back. And well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I know that your family is going to be very lucky to have more time with you. And don't be a stranger too much. And I was going to embarrass you a lot more, so I know you pay me back for it. So I'm just going to simply say thank you. I appreciate you, my friend. And best of luck, and we'll see you around very soon.
Okay, we'll give Mandy a moment. So now please, PGUSD staff comments, non-agenda items.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Buck Rogaman, the principal of Forest Grove. First of all, I wanted to kind of add my thanks to Mandy as well. When you're working from Mandy, from the perspective of the sites interacting with the district office and the superintendent's office, I just want to say it's always been absolutely smooth and a complete pleasure. Whenever you've needed anything from us, and whenever we've needed anything from you, it's always gone really, really smoothly, and we really appreciate you for that. Plus, you're just really nice about it too. So thank you for that. Also wanted to publicly recognize Mr. Mazer and the work that he did to put together the holiday concerts, both at Robert Down and at Forest Grove. It was an amazing gathering of an entire community one night and then another one the next night, and to have like 1,000 people in Breaker Stadium celebrating, the TK through 5 students was just good for the heart and good for the soul. So I really appreciate Mr. Mazer and all of the work of staff to make sure that program happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a comment online, please. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. Sean Roach, proud principal of Pacific Grove Middle School. And I too just came from a Mr. Mazer concert, and it was wonderful, as well as Miss Priest's efforts the last 2 days. I do have to tell you that it was wonderful to see them in person and indoors, very safely and spaced out. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing for parents to behold and for the students to be able to participate in. But I also really want to take a moment and wish a bon voyage to Kelly Terry, Janie Lawrence, and Sabrina Andrade. All 3 of those educators are going to be leaving us tomorrow. And they really embody what's best in our field. The number of students that they have touched is immeasurable, and they're friends. And I know 2 of them are heading for greener pastures and will most likely email us bragging about all the fun stuff they're doing. The 3rd is going to further her career in education and hopefully come back to us as a speech and language pathologist. So I just want to wish them the best. They've been amazing to work with. I will dearly, dearly miss them, as will the kids. And finally, Mandy, I will miss you very, very much. Your calm, your humor, your professionalism. You're a wonderful person, period. And having seen pictures of that little girl, I think you've got a lot of fun ahead of you. So I wish you the best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? Okay, we'll go on now. And the next thing we'll do is individuals desiring to address the board. Would you read that?
Absolutely. Public comment on any items of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item. A total time for public input on each item is 20 minutes pursuant to Board Policy 9323. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action item prior to the board action thereon. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda.
Thank you. Are there any individuals? Two. All right. Okay.
Good evening. This is Joan Kim again. Thank you. And I wanted to congratulate you for having item 10L of the consent agenda for the licensed mental health and licensed mental health specialist, I believe, or counselor through ESSER emergency funding, and to see if that would potentially be considered to be continued. And I was curious about how confidentiality may be maintained with regards to school records, special education, and if this is addressing the low to medium risk mental health issues for students. Also, secondly, I was just wanting to support you with regarding or considering having the community governance meetings in middle and high schools, such as the school site council meetings and PTAs and their bylaws online. And thirdly, there is a community advisory committee that I chair for our county, and I'm happy to continue to represent our district there. We do need more parents in all of our 24 districts, and we only have a few. So we are working on some informational workshops in addition to those business meetings that are bi-monthly. The next one will be in 2 months from now. So some of those collaborators will be Blue Zones, and I referred them also to Director Stephanie Lip regarding their Sustainable Nutrition and Health Initiative, California Rural Legal Assistance, which provides free, great civil legal services and referrals for students and their families, low income. So if anybody's interested in those, please do contact me at collaborativecommunitycacmc@gmail.com, 831-204-8702. Text or calling. And there will be also a professional sharing about CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, brain injuries, and invisible disabilities and resources. And we're always looking for topics of interest to the community and for people to be added to our distribution lists. And there will be an English speaking support group for parents professionals that will be continuing to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. I know you asked a couple of questions, and this isn't really what we do during this, but the information you shared and how to find you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Next person, please.
Yes, good evening, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Dr. Tom Moore. I am president of the Monterey Peninsula Soccer League and also president and CEO of California Soccer Association North. As most of you are aware, we run a fundraising program for the boys and girls soccer teams at the high school. And I'd just like to report to you the results of our fall season fundraising program. I delivered this morning to Principal Garcia 2 checks, each in the amount of $3,195, one for the boys soccer team, one for the girls soccer team. And that brings, since we started the fundraising program back in 2012, that brings the total amount that we have donated to the soccer teams to $100,938.27. So thank you very much for choosing to serve on a school board, particularly in A, pandemic times, and B, in times where some school boards have been very much politicized by interesting members of the public. I hope that does not happen to you at any point in time, but thank you for your service. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. And over $100,000 is absolutely unbelievable. It's incredible and such a service for our community and young athletes. So on behalf of the entire district, thank you so much for those efforts. Very much appreciated. Okay, consent agenda. I'm so sorry. Come on down.
Beth Shamas. I wanted to comment on the consent because sometimes it doesn't go out for public comment. So I wanted to talk about the minutes of 2 meetings that you had regarding expulsions. And you had, within 2 months, serious expulsions. My concern is that, number one, why is this happening? Number two, there's very little information that is given about the expulsions. We're told it's Ed Code 48915. And if you go look that up, you're going to find causing serious physical injury, possession of a knife, controlled substance, robbery, extortion, assault, battery, but you don't know which one. So you don't also know whether it was middle school or high school students. My concern about this is that when you don't inform the public, and I'm not talking about names, but when you don't inform the public about what is happening at your school, you lock us out of helping you, of maybe offering possible solutions. I mean, I've spent my life working with kids on probation. I know this, you know, these are the kids that I worked with. So there's lots of ways of helping these kids, but when it feels like, you know, you're trying to hide it from everybody, you don't want people to know that we had these serious expulsions. But I'd like you to consider that it's not a bad thing to let people know, and that your public can maybe help you in some of these instances. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. May I ask a question of the superintendent?
Yes, you may.
2?
We had the stipulated expulsion and the regular expulsion.
Okay, it wasn't just the 2 that were sent out today back to back to. One was a correction. That's the only reason. I
Yes,
asked.
that's correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and/or may have been discussed at a previous board meeting. There is no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items be discussed and/or removed from the consent agenda. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. So I'll check with the board. Is there anything that needs to be pulled?
I'd like to pull consent S.
S, okay. Okay. Trustee Paff, nothing. Trustee Swanson, nothing. Okay, so then we would have the consent agenda up through A through R as is, and we will pull 6. Do I have a motion?
Public comment.
Motion to approve?
What do I need? Public comment. Thank you.
That's Shamas. My comment is on item L on the
Landscape?
landscaping
Uh-huh.
for the, um,
Baseball field.
well, actually for the batting cages, putting in the turf. And so I remember I talked about before why a person is donating $10,000 instead of using Measure D money. And now that 10,000 isn't going to cover it all. So now it's going to be taken, the balance is going to be taken out of a team account. And again, I'm going to ask, why not Measure D money? This person that just, Mr. Moore, that's donating or raising $100,000. I mean, I would really like to know, where does that money go? I mean, that's a lot of money. And does it go for infrastructure? Should it go for infrastructure? Isn't that what Measure D money is for? And my concern is that if you're not clear about what you're doing with your monies, the next time you go out and ask for a bond, you're going to get some pushback. So it needs to be, you know, I just don't like it that when you have the money, you're acting like you're poor when you're taking donations like that. So it's not to say that you don't want somebody to raise $100,000, but what are the parameters for where that money goes is what I'm asking.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? Okay, none at this time. Do I have an emotion? I'm sorry, board
President
comments?
Dawson, are we looking for, is it A through R?
A through R, we pulled S. It's
All
been
right,
requested.
So I'll move to approve consent items A through R.
Second.
Okay, so moved by trustee Brian Swanson and seconded by John Paff. So now we'll look at S. No, take a vote, sorry. I'm learning. Student, please. Save me.
It's roll call vote, right?
Is
Is
she,
it not?
Yeah, Mandy, everything, we listed as roll call, so everything's a roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, so now we'll go to item S.
Thank you. So I wanted to pull item S. I had a couple of questions about it. I see that it is Measure D funds, but it wasn't planned Measure D funds. And I know our board has gone through kind of extensive planning for prioritizing items for Measure D funds. And I wanted to talk about this one because it kind of came up unexpectedly. And I would like to see something like this that comes up unexpectedly, not on consent because it's not routine. And also it's dealing directly with our Measure D funds. And so I was hoping, Ralph, could you speak to that?
Director Kelly's here. Can you speak? He appeared right when we needed him. A little furrier than last time we saw you. Could you help? Did you hear the question okay?
I think so, yeah. Why it's on consent. I think it was put on a consent just for, we had the agenda was so big. And it was under, I think, a certain dollar amount that we were able to, I was asked to put it on consent.
Okay, yeah, so next time I would like to see this not on consent. And then I just want to make sure that we're not spending money that we're not, I know that we're short-staffed as a whole as a district, and I just want to make sure that that when we add a priority project that wasn't there before, that we're making sure that our sites have everything that they need to be safe before we're navigating, before we're prioritizing other projects.
Okay.
So that's what I would like to see. If there's safety issues at other sites that need to be taken care of, installations of curtains, things like that at sites, I would like to see that project completed before we do something like this.
You did yes and no. The timing on some of these projects, and in particular the curtains and that you're talking about. So we have a project coming up to the board for Series B for a window replacement that will include the curtains. The time it takes to design it and possibly have to go through DSA is quite a long time. And we also have the money allocated in Series B, which we don't have those funds yet. We had the opportunity to spend a little money to do the carpeting, which is why it took, a quote, and that was it. So sometimes the planning takes a lot longer for some projects and a lot shorter for other projects.
Sure, I understand. I know there's a lot of factors that go into weaving all
Yeah.
the project management together.
Mhm.
I just think right now we do have a project pending at one of our sites. And I think it's not Measure D money that's going to fund that. But I just want to make sure that staff, resource-wise, labor-wise, we've got that project measured, installed before we're perhaps pulling labor for district office carpeting. That's my concern.
Yeah, Measure D is paying for the windows and the blinds, the temporary blinds are being paid for COVID.
With COVID money,
COVID
with
monies,
ESSER
yes.
2 money.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and so when will that project be completed?
We just ordered the blind, so it should be completed sometime in January.
Okay,
And Director Kelly, the carpeting is a contractor, is it not?
It is a contractor. Yeah, we can't do that type of project
It's
in-house.
not our personnel that's doing this installation.
Correct, yeah, it's not.
okay, and it won't be pulling your time away from the blinds whatsoever. This project will not take away any resources from that project.
Just my time, yes. Just managing the contractor, that's it.
Okay. Okay, thank you
Uh-huh.
for your answers. Thank you.
Any other comments regarding this? I just want to weigh in that I mean, I respect that there are different things that have different needs, but I think that's what Director Kelly's supposed to be looking at and measuring. I mean, I'm assuming you're doing that and making sure we're doing what we need to do, but if carpet it needs replacing and it's long past, I mean, I don't know. I want you to make those choices and figure out what needs to be done.
And if I may, Madam President, I asked Director Kelly to do this project.
Yeah.
Again, district office is the face of the public. I mean, we get a lot of traffic in and out of this office, especially now with interviews, testing, whatever. And the reality is the carpet is well past its expected life. It's coming up at the seams. It smells terrible. It's not cleanable. And we have a lot of members of the public come in and out of the office. And so it was not a project that was going to impede any other projects that are happening. It was relatively low cost and just trying to keep things at least looking good on the front end. It just really impacts the people that are coming into the district office more than anything else.
And I mean, whether or not it's carpet or some other thing, the fact is there's going to be breaks. Some things happen faster, some things get delayed. Use the time wisely. We appreciate you taking the time as necessary to actually make those decisions and say, look, I have 2 weeks, I can do this. And we have a small surfeit of funds. And that's exactly what we expect you to do. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's like, again, it's nothing that Director Kelly is you're not pulling carpet and laying down carpet. It's like that's why we're looking at the contract. And secondly, I don't know if anybody's seen how quickly Mandy moves down that hallway, but when she does,
I've heard.
let's make sure that the carpet's not going to trip her up. So that's all I've got.
Okay, so we would now take a roll call vote, public comment. Do we have to do public comment on this as well? Oh, I'm going to learn, I'm telling you. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay,
Nobody online. Good.
I will make a motion with my microphone on to approve consent item S.
Second,
okay, it was moved by Brian Swanson and seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 No,
Okay, the motion carries 4-1. Now we'll move on to public hearing. 1 action discussion item A. So the public hearing of California School Employees Associated Sunshine List for 2021-22. The recommendation was put forward by Dr. Porras. I just got this. Thank you. Public hearing is open.
So pretty much as stated in the agenda, we're required to hold a public hearing anytime we're working with negotiations in terms of a sunshine list. At this point, we are asking the board to approve the sunshine list has been submitted for CSEA so that we can begin negotiations.
Do we have any public comment?
So now it's open for the board and the public to make any comments they like. on this item.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start with the board. Dr. Rivera,
I have no comment on this. Thank you.
thank you.
This is presented by CSEA, correct?
That's
This is
correct.
their list.
Yes.
No comments. It's perfect. Thanks.
Trustee Carolyn,
No comments. Thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
nor do I. Any comments from the public?
No.
I think that's called a
That's a good
fake
fake.
out.
Yeah, that's a good fake.
Everybody move
fake.
forward in their seats. Nothing. All right. At this time, we go ahead and close.
There's no one else online?
No one else?
Nope.
No, okay.
You may close.
We will
public.
close public comment. Next, we have approval of California School Employees Association Sunshine List for 2021 with the recommendation of Dr. Ralph Porras, and I believe we'll hear from Billy Mankey, please.
I think she'll be ready for the next one. So is that right?
Sorry, I butted in.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Oh,
So this is the board taking action on the item that you just did the public hearing on.
Okay, we're taking action. Oy, oy, oy. Okay, do I,
So you'll want to call for a motion in a second. And
Okay.
then you are welcome to ask for a little more public comment if you like, although we've already had that,
yeah,
and then call for the vote.
okay, we'll just go ahead to motion in interest of time. Any motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Dr. Frank Rivera, seconded by John Paff, and we'll now take a roll call vote. Aye.
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 So the motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll have a public hearing. You threw me off, Billy.
I'm sorry.
2, action discussion item B. This is a public hearing of Pacific Grove Unified School District classified negotiations, sunshine topics for 2021, 2022.
That's correct.
There we go.
So administration recommends that the board hold this public hearing of PGUSD and CSEA sunshine topics for 2021-22. The topics are wages, health and welfare benefits. Whoops, it just went off. Okay, I lost it. It's evaluation and also probationary language and updating jury duty and witness leave language.
Thank you very much. Do I gavel again? Or is it too late?
Again, this public hearing, so comments from the board.
Okay.
And then comments from the public.
Okay, comments from the board, please.
I have no comments.
Nor do I.
Again,
None.
this is, we're saying what we would like to discuss, so no comment.
Okay, thank you.
No comments.
None, thank you.
Okay, no comments at this time. Any public comments? Okay, I'm going to close this public hearing and we're going to move on to the approval of Pacific Grove Unified School District classified negotiations sunshine topics for 21 through 22.
And so then as previously stated, this is the sunshine list we'll be working with CSCA on. And it includes the articles that I previously discussed, which are wages, health and welfare, evaluation and jury duty leave, and let's see, probationary employee timeline. So with that, administration recommends that the board review and approve this sunshine list.
Thank you. Since there were no public comments before, I'm going to assume the same here. Any board comments at this time? Okay, we'll move forward, please, with a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, we had a motion from Dr. Frank Rivera, second from Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Hi,
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move to action discussion at this time. Time for a district update on response to COVID-19 by our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few items as we go into the holidays. I had a chance to check in with Nurse Pally, who again, just give our utmost thanks to for the amount of work that she does and covers. Pretty extraordinary. If our district dashboard is currently been updated, also thanks to Director DeVost for helping keep that up and running. And at this point, we have only two active cases in the district. So things have been looking good, knock on wood. We'll continue to hope that's the case, along with the preventative measures that all of our staff have been assisting with our students. We all know that the mask mandate is in effect by the state. I think that's going to be going for a little while into the new year. So just folks be aware of that as we go. Really not too much has changed other than requiring masks indoors. So that's been in place and again, continue to be followed very well. As mentioned earlier, we've had our vaccine clinics, our first rounds of those have gone just wonderfully. And I want to thank the Monterey Fire for conducting those COVID-19 vaccine clinics for us. They just amazing gentlemen and ladies and did a lot of work with that. I think 220 children did the first clinic in November and then 194 in December. So lots of students showing up. It's great news. I know that the fire department is continuing to be very proactive and I'm sure that will continue working with us. Nurse Pally has been in touch with them pretty regularly. And so we'll have more to go. We do try to push out notification as often as we can of any clinics that are up and coming. I think a couple of notifications already went out for some clinics that will be happening over the breaks, both in terms of vaccine clinics as well as testing that's made available. So keep an eye on that. Speaking of testing, we did conduct our first rounds of pool testing at the elementaries. And thankfully, again, negative tests abound, which was exactly what we were looking for. I will say that it was a little disappointing that we had so many parents opt not to participate. I just felt like there was a greater interest. But thankful for those parents that did to give us enough of an accurate reading to help us move forward. And we will continue to pursue that. And in fact, after the break begins the rounds at the middle school and the high school. And we'll be looking at 8 classes per week at each of the sites. So we'll get those notifications out. I think that Nurse Pally has done a nice job of streamlining the permission slip process and notification as necessary. So we're looking forward to that happening as well. And right now, that's about all I have.
I remember when those were very, very long reports. So it's wonderful.
Yes.
It's not as arduous and difficult and some really good news with 2 cases. Okay, next we'll move on to D.
You want board comment?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I do. Thanks for helping me, everybody. I'm going to get this down. Can we?
No action required on this item unless something comes up from the board.
Okay. Dr. Rivera?
No, thank you for positive news. Thank you.
Ralph, right now, I know Stanford has just gone back to full online for winter semester.
Yeah.
What do you hear about anybody else?
Nothing, the word's very silent here right now about that. We did discuss that with the county superintendents, what day is today? Yesterday. And no word at this point. Everything seems to be continuing as planned. I don't know, Dr. Rivera, you might have a better word on that in regards to MPC. Any of the colleges looking to go full virtual?
No, as of right now, 60% of the campus is going to be face-to-face in the spring.
Yeah, good. It's good.
Thank you both.
Thank you, President Dawson. I just have 2 questions and they're kind of staffing related questions. So can you remind me, did we fully hire additional support for Nurse Pally?
We did, yes.
We did, thank you. And then this is COVID academic support related. Did we hire our elementary level intervention teachers that were at first going to be TOSAs? Have those been hired?
I'll have to move that over to our Human Resources Director, please.
Trustee Carolyn, we have hired one full-time person at Forest Grove. And we are working on the second hire for Robert Down, potentially to start right after break. And actually have a meeting with Principal Keller tomorrow to discuss.
Okay, so I'm just going to repeat it so that the virtual, and so it's on the recording. So you said that there's one full-time person hired for Forest Grove and they've already started. And then there's the other person is hired for Robert Down and they're going to start after the break. So it's rolling. It's definitely rolling.
Yeah, the discussion on the second hire for the is what I'll be discussing.
Okay, thank you so much. And those are my comments and questions.
Thank you. Trustee
No, I'm good.
Swanson?
No,
No
thank you. All
comments?
good.
Okay, let's see what? Public comment, please. Okay, no action is required. So we're gonna move on to the information covered earlier. Was that this week? Yeah, Monday night, yes,
Indeed.
on educator effectiveness block grant plan for 2021 through 2026. And Dr. Hagquist is here to speak to this, please.
And as he's approaching the podium, just Director Silva wanted to extend her apologies. She's very ill, could not attend, even to the point of not being able to attend virtually. So she extends her greatest apologies. So when I didn't, of course, didn't want to put her in a position not feeling well presenting. And I know that we went into depth on this item. So we're certainly welcome to take any questions. Dr. Hagquist is here in case there are further questions about this item. And I don't believe there are any changes that have come since that time.
No changes. You said what I was going to say. Director Silva couldn't be here because she's feeling ill. So she asked me to stand in and field any questions that the public or the board might have.
Okay, why don't we start down with you, Brian, if we may?
I don't have any additional questions. I do want to remind the public that this was discussed in a meeting earlier this week. And I believe that is now online too, for anybody that wanted to take a look at the presentation or any of the board comments. It is now
I'm seeing a no, just,
not yet.
The recording didn't come out well because of the crash that
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
The
So
documents have been posted. We have those in place
Oh,
and plus this.
so the documents are online to do without the discussion. So I have nothing further. I want to thank you again for the in-depth presentation that you made earlier this week, though. Thank you very much.
Trustee Carolyn?
Thank you. Well, shoot, now I'm not really sure what to do because I do have my questions that I asked you when you presented on Monday, but I felt like that might be repetitive. Although now it sounds like those questions don't really exist for the public to hear, the questions and answers. Gosh, you know what? I'm going to ask them. Why not? And so you know what's coming, but I'm going to ask them again. Not that you memorized them. So you guys lined out the funding. It was about $618,000 that the district is going to be receiving. So my question was, and it was regarding staff professional development with this grant. So were there any items that you wished you could have added to the grant, but didn't?
I think what we spoke to on Monday in response to that question was, we know that this is one-time funding and our ability to carry forward some of the items that we will be funding through the grant. I think that's what we had mentioned.
Okay, and then I wanted to know about the public engagement regarding the item. How was the community involved directly with this, if at all?
It's specified in the grant that the engagement of stakeholders, which typically is written into the legislation when we have to create a plan, was not required by this grant. And we discussed how engagement of stakeholders happens at the site regularly through site leadership teams, and that the design of this grant was really to design staff development in order to meet the goals that are set by those leadership teams that include stakeholder input, things like the single plan for student achievement, things like that. So that's was decisions made by the site leaders.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question was, in the presentation, you guys had mentioned lasting learning experiences that you hoped to see kind of be embedded in the culture of our district after this took place, after the trainings took place. And I had asked you if you could give a specific example of a lasting learning experience that you hoped would take place.
Yeah, I don't remember what my specific example was, but I know we talked about the importance of really progress monitoring whenever we implement a program. And I believe we may have talked about the equity program that we're going to be implementing and how we really do not want it to be a one and done type of situation where we bring PD on board, they present, they leave, and then we're kind of the same. We haven't really changed that. It's an ongoing process that we regularly monitor. We gather feedback through survey work and through interviews and small group interviews, things like that, to just see what the climate looks like and do that regularly over a long period of time to make sure that the professional development that we do implement has a lasting impact.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Caroline. All right, I mentioned the other day, I want to repeat, it's so nice to have you two at the helm, and the enthusiasm you have for this project, I think bodes well. I also want to point out that the your things that you're offering to the board are written up here very nicely. In addition, cost implications and goals with the different pillars you're hoping to achieve. And as I mentioned, Stangy sounds very, very interesting. So thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, ditto. It's very well written. Thank you for that report. Very informative.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now we have that back. Do I have a motion regarding public comment? Do we have a motion for public comment? That's the way I meant to say that. Every time I'm going to say that because I'm learning so quickly. All right, any comments? Maybe I knew that in my heart already. That's why I was moving on. Okay, a motion, please.
Motion to approve. I
Second.
Okay, we have a motion
second.
by Dr. Frank Rivera, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 So it carries at a vote of 5-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll take a look at the approval of the 2021 through 2022 First Interim Report with Assistant Superintendent Song Chin Bendib.
Thank you, President Dawson. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're dealing with 2001 to 21-22 first interim and budget revisions number 2. Well, the first budget revisions number 1 happened in late October, on October 28, which traditionally we do that. And after we close the books and after we have started hiring for the year, although this year it seems like hiring is continuous. But we have done that. So this is just continuing from there, any budget revisions since the last round in October. Now for the first interim, the actual information is until October 31st. And also this report is official. It goes to the county office and it also goes to the state of California. I'm going to start with the first slide here. Let me see. So the first slide is we always kind of look at the combined general fund, combined meaning there's unrestricted and restricted. So unrestricted is self-explanatory. It's a discretion of the district, the board. primarily to pay for salaries, benefits. And our district for unrestricted general fund is about 91% goes into statutory benefits and salaries. And what about the restricted? This year, we have a higher amount than usual of restricted funds. And you don't see it combined because you can see in all the attachment, the hundreds of pages that Mandy meticulously put it together is in here in the SACS forms, is the state account code structure forms. But here's combined a summary of the two. The restricted, the biggest ones would be the expanded learning grant, is what we call ELO, and also ESSER2, which is the secondary and primary state stimulus money that was put together, that was sent by the federal government. Also, wherever that we have get additional funding, we've been restricted. The other restricted funds also, the SELPA AB 1200 for the special ed grant is part of the SELPA, and is the funding for special ed program. Now that funding is not enough to fund special ed, so there's a contribution from the unrestricted to restricted. So those are the primary restricted funds. And if you look at it, the first interim compared to the last round, what we call the revised budget, which is round number 1, there's a slight increase in the deficit, the operating deficit, but it's because of the carryover funds. And I know we go over this a lot, but it's also for the interest of the public to understand how the equation of really public accounting for school districts is very different than corporate, for retail, for businesses. Because for carryover funding from money that we received the year before or prior, the only way to spend the funds is to create purchase order is to through the money, put it into current year expenditures without corresponding income. Therefore, artificially it shows as a deficit, meaning the deficit is essentially the difference between current year's income and current year's expenditures. So that, and you can see this is here carryover funds, you can see the increase is about $200,000, and therefore the deficit spending is also increased by almost $200,000. The $1,027,521 is just money, all these programs, now they're taking from the reserve from the savings from prior year, now they're spending this. Now, it doesn't mean that all this money will be spent. It's just now for the availability for those programs to issue requisitions and purchase order. The next thing we put down here also this summary of the increase or the change, all the changes in budget adjustment. They are also detailed in the board spreadsheets as well, in the board packet. But in here, just a summary. I won't go into every one of them, but the gist of it, this is where we are with the carryover funds, and you can see the difference. And I listed here the ESSER and EL funds that which we talk about. The left side of the spreadsheets is show the listing by each funding sources, like LCFF for us would be the property tax dollars, the federal sources and state sources and local and so on. And then with the expenditures just listed the summarizing the reasons and also what changes that have occurred since October. This next one, it shows the reserve. Earlier, you just look at operating income and operating expenditures, but now is the reserve, meaning the end of the day, what is our bottom line with beginning balances from last year, plus the income minus all the expenditures, how much we have left projected at this time. Of course, this is all about projections. When we close the books in August, it will be different. It's just that we don't know how much of a difference at this point. At this point for this year, 21-22, it shows a 15.2%, and next year 22-23, 18.7%, and then 23-24, 22% reserve. And as we all know, we're in the midst of negotiations, so all this the numbers obviously will change. Now, in terms of assumption, we carry the same thing for this year. At the top, you can see it shows a 3.12%. As we talk about this in October, because these are actuals, because these are actual assessments by the assessor. So this is the increase that was given to us for our property tax dollars over last year's actuals dollar amounts. Now for next year, we're projecting at this point of 5%. And as we stated in the board cover, we'll adjust, we'll look at the actual receipts that we have received this year, month, November, and we'll look at the next one will be December, and then the second largest one for every fiscal year, obviously, is April. But the December one will know hopefully by the second or third week of January where the posting will happen. So we'll come back and let the board know, because also at that time we'll talk about projection for next year, the 5%, whether there's any movements or not. And then the second year is 3.15%. We'll keep working on this. It's a work in progress. It's just projections, and the numbers may change. Now, the next one is the funds other than general fund is adult education fund. Real quickly, if you look at the bottom line, there's not a lot of changes happened between October and now. It started off with a carryover, a beginning balance of $2.2 million, you can see here, and then revised budget 2 months ago. So it's the same thing with just slight adjustments in income and also with expenditures, with a reserve at the end of the day of 1.7, a little bit over $1.7 million. Next one is Child Development Fund. This is where the fund that houses BSRP program and also the state preschool. There are 2 programs in here. Again, as you can see, it's not a lot of changes. Actually, the ending fund balance is a slight increase. But I just want to point out that there is still a contribution from the district general fund of $41,910. Because last year we got the federal stimulus money, but it's not enough because the program was not able to generate any receipts, any payments from the parents because of pandemic. So therefore, the district has been, contributing it to support this program until its program comes back, hopefully recovers soon. In terms of the next 2 years, 22, 23, we show in the yellow highlight a contribution from the program for the program to continue on is $45,000 and then $55,000. Now, obviously, we'll watch when we close the books this year, whether, there's this need or not. The district general fund has not, did not have the need to contribute to this program in prior years because of the receipts from the BSRP. It was able to not only self-sustaining, but also was able to help the state preschool, but because of anomaly last year. So therefore, we have to revisit and look at this, whether we can recalibrate this contribution from general fund. Cafeteria Fund is the same scenario. It starts with a fund balance $317,000, $145 at the top here, the middle of the column, revised budget. This is the number in October, but it's because it's a beginning balance for this year is ending balance from last year. Therefore, this number is fixed, doesn't change because we closed the books. Because of the healthier dollar amount is one of the reasons, also because we get a lot, you can see in here last year, of the stimulus feeding program. So the federal governments keep on, making sure that all kids can eat and without having to pay. And you can see now with the federal revenue here is almost double what we received last year. Now, from what we understand this point, will go into next year, but very likely will continue on because the state is really experiencing a really healthy reserve. And this is one of the programs the current governor cherishes. So it looks like it probably will continue on. Now, with that also correspondingly, expenditures will also go up. As you can see, 2 years ago, 1920, we spent almost $700,000. Now we are projecting to spend over $1 million with a net operating projected deficit of 100,000. So this will eat into the reserve. So therefore you have a net reserve at this point estimated at $216,000. But as you can see, going to the third year, we need to look at contribution again from a general fund. So, but then when we build the budget, we start in the spring. Budget for next year, we'll look at really more in depth. This is just already looking in a rolling estimates from current year into the 2 out years. But when we're looking more in depth, we'll look at really look into the every expense and look at also income sources as well. Deferred maintenance, this is a program the board wants to, hopefully increase the fund balance. This is $93,000. This is a contribution. This is from the state. That's a formula that's fixed. It comes into the general fund and we transfer to the deferred maintenance program. And it's fixed, unfortunately, has not been really increased with the COLA, with only index. It's $93,372 each year. And our projection is about $25,000 because it's actually thanks to the homeowner taxpayers in Pacific Grove, we have a Measure D. Otherwise, a lot of these expenses will have to come out this program and capital outlay. So any of the capital outlay projects that really in the capital list approved by the board will be taken already taken by Measure D. So anything that's not covered in those areas will come out of this. And we projecting this slight increase in the second year in terms of expenditures, but if we don't need to spend, this will reduce the expenditures. Of course, will increase the reserve. And it's looking pretty positive. It goes up each year. As you can see, 219 this year, and next year is 287, and the third year is $351,000. And this is areas that we can use like for 10 bark, for play structure, for other things that are not really covered by other areas, other things. Post-employment benefits fund, this is the one, the small one, amount that is carry over for years, is the unspent interest, a little bit small residual amount from many years. And we've been keeping it. We want to keep this active. Once we have created a fund, you don't want to close it because there's always a chance. It's much more many steps to create a fund, and we have to go through the process. Once we have it, there's no reason for us not to keep it. Fund 21, this is a fund that contains the measures. You have the Measure A, Education Technology Fund, but also Measure D, which will actually, I just noticed here, I'll just add Measure A and D rather than just say Education Technology in the title. There are just a couple of highlights in here. The $2 million under the first interim in here, it's just to show that we're looking into the series D, Measure A. This is a fourth series. And we'll work with our financial advisor because that's in the works. Whether the timing of the issuance is, that's where we are still working on that at this point. Now, the Measure D, Series B, which is the second series, is right now is tentatively scheduled to be next spring, to be in a 22, which is the 22-23 fiscal year. Because like Director Kelly said, this is money that we will need for the summer of 23, so that, we have projects earmarked to spend this money. Now, first interim in the middle, you can see a lot of supplies. So why is it so huge? This is the amount that we haven't spent yet. We just park there. And then when the projects come to the board, when you approve that, so each one will be sliced off to pay for the purchase order. Capital outlay projects fund is Fund 40. This is the primary source, is the rental that we have with at David Avenue, with Monterey Bay Charter School. And then with the expenditure, this is for the portable leases that we have, the two of them, and it's going to be done by next year. Yeah. So you can see 22, 23, and then there's nothing, the $117,000 that's empty is because the last payment will happen next fiscal year. And that will help of course, without balance. As you can see, it jumps, projected to jump in the third year out. And the next two slides, just information, the fund balance rise, it shows the board wanted to see where we shows what we have, the average unified school district and elementary school districts and also high school districts. We still have only 1920. We don't have 2021 yet. It's not been posted yet. So average is 1882, and then the elementaries, of course, is slightly higher and the high school is slightly lower. Now, the next one is basic aid school districts. Again, we have ours, 2021, the first column, and then the second column, it shows the average of unified basic aid school districts. We don't have the 2021 yet, but you can see the difference between the third column, how we compare to the others. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Board comments. Trustee Brian.
A couple of things, Song. Thank you again for an overwhelming amount of information. But it's great to have, and I appreciate all the effort that again goes into putting this together. I often think of this as like it's sort of a snapshot from a moving car, so to speak. You know, it's like, so, all right, so it's a lot of information to take in. It can be a little blurry. Is there anything in particular that you want to call attention to as we speed along, whether it's positive or negative, that it's like, all right, a lot of stuff to look at, pages and pages and different funds and all these different pockets of money? Is there anything that we should really be watching for as a heads up?
That's a great question. I don't think it is status quo as it is, you know, without looking to other things, potential expenditures. I don't think anything that stands out, you know, in terms of, you know, glaring that we should pay attention to. Obviously, we would like to have to be more comfortable with rates of increase of property tax dollars, but there are a lot of variables beyond our control.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we can, we work very closely with assessor. And also we do our own analysis as well to make sure we don't deviate so far out. And then the other part of obviously is all this one-time funds.
Yeah.
It's good for us, but it comes with its challenges as well. We just have to be very careful to quote the late Ron Bennett, you know, you don't want to pay for something one time, maybe something for something that eats.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We just monitor, we work with HR to make sure that if it's one time, especially with staffing, we term and also record it as one time.
Has that, I know in years past, are we still dealing with the same assessor that we have been for the last, or has that relationship improved at all? I know it has been difficult in years past getting information as you've been looking for it. Is that also kind of status quo still?
Status quo, I think he tolerates me.
All right, good. And lastly, I had a question about Fund 13, Cafeteria Fund. How is that money that we receive, because there's state revenue and federal revenue, is that determined on like the number of students, or does it, because I see it varies, and then what you're projecting out is static, but that's going to change a little bit too, right?
That's correct. The actuals will change. This is based on the number of meals served. And then the federal is there's stimulus, you know, whether every student can eat right now. So it depends on that. We Director Lip will file a report and we get reimbursements.
Okay, so we'll get the same as any other per student as any other district would. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's
Okay.
a standard
All right,
rate.
so we're not subjected to some of the financial restrictions that we would encounter because of we're basic aid, where.
No, that's
Yeah, okay.
correct.
All right,
That's
great.
correct.
Thank you for
Right.
clarifying that. And again, thank you for all the detail.
Thank you. Thank you, Song, for the presentation. Let's see. So I actually don't have many questions. I'm glad to see that we've got a positive mark for this year, not a negative or qualified one. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Path?
You answered one thing. You think the cafeteria fund money will continue on past 20. It was to end 2022, 23, correct? And you
That's
think
correct.
right now the word is that this is important to Newsom and the expectation is it'll continue. Okay, that's positive news. Thank you. On slide 13, you talk about averages. Is it possible? Next slide, please.
Oh.
Is it possible to get something that looks at an average basic aid that is closer in size to us? As was mentioned before, if you include Carmel, or that's probably appropriate. If you include Palo Alto Unified, their basic aid, but they're 55,000 students or some ridiculous number that well exceeds what we have, and there's not a rational comparison for an average. So if we could maybe at the next one.
Sure.
Thank you
Yes,
very
we'll
much.
get that.
Finally, when I look at that CalPERS number, which is on your very first slide, maybe it's the second slide. And we talk about the changes in STIRS PERS. I want to say when I started, we put in $2.5 million into STIRS PERS. It's 8 years later and we put in $9 million. And we've had roughly a $10 million increase in funds. 7 million out of 10 is going into STIRS PERS. And this number, when I see 27.1% downstream, which is on your cover sheet, I mean, that's just frightening. This strikes me that I'm on page
Is it
151 in the packet.
okay?
I thought we actually capped at 26, and now I see another percent added on that.
That's correct. It's just project CalPERS at this point, but we'll see because CalPERS is, we have to rely on the CalPERS board. Each year around May, they'll vote on it, but at least this is what project given out by the county office. That, yes, you're correct. It's scary. Is giving with coupled with not just CalPERS, but all the statutory benefits that we have to pay, such as workers' comp, employer has to pay. With unemployment insurance, because with a lot of high unemployment claims, the rate has gone up last year, and also with Medicare and Social Security for classified employees, we have to pay those. It's more than a third of every dollar, and this is every dollar we must carve out to pay.
Yeah,
You're correct.
it's a phenomenally big number. You know, I look at our payroll, which is 25,000, or strike that, add a couple zeros, $25 million. And we're putting in an additional somewhere 8 to 9 between these two funds right now. And, you know, the last 2 years, the governor has come forth and tried to buy that down a little bit. Is there any word at all? We haven't even seen a January projection yet because it's not January. Is there any scuttlebutt that nothing? Mum's the word right now.
There's a lot of advocacy in that direction, but it's all going one way right now.
It's all going one way.
We're feeding
Us-
the advocacy out, but
yeah,
we're not
us
hearing anything back.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's no answers to that then at this point. Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate that. And that will be online at the end of the meeting. Yeah, the whole presentation. Thank you very much.
Dr. Rivera?
Yes, thank you very much for that presentation. My only question is, when do we get the hard numbers for the property tax revenue?
The actuaries is actually posted by the auditor controls to the county, to our cash account, the treasury account. And then each month we look at it and we add it up. And then with cumulative, like for example, from July through November. So we will know the number and we compare to our projection each month. And then we still keep our projection total for the year. But obviously we want to see the two biggies, you know, the biggest one of the two, because amounts comes into would be the December and then February.
Thank you.
Oh, as always, so much detail and so well done. And I love your arrows and the circles and the colors to help us with the pain. I do appreciate it. So thank you for that. Is there any public comment at this time?
Beth Shamasi. Well, I think we should do our money dance. I think that's good news. you know, the amount of reserve is incredible. I mean, it just doesn't, maybe I've been out of it for too long, but 15.2% is pretty good. So what I would suggest is you're in negotiations. And when we were in negotiations, one of the things we did was we had a board member go to the negotiations. And I really learned a lot, and it's a very good for relationships to have a board member in there. Now, I know CSBA doesn't like it, but CSBA doesn't like a lot of things. So don't worry about that. But it is good for a board member to be in CSEA and PGTA's negotiations. You will learn a lot. You will hear from them what their concerns are. And, you know, because there's always that fear that the teachers or classified have, that they're not getting the real story because it gets filtered through admin. And, you know, that's not necessarily true, but that is how it gets seen sometimes. And I just think it's valuable as a board member to hear what your employees are thinking and feeling. And you've got money. So regardless of STRS, I mean, every district has to deal with that. It's just the way it is. So, but you've got a healthy reserve. You've got, you know, your property taxes. I mean, all you got to do is historically look back and see the only time we dropped was with the financial crisis. So barring that, your property taxes are going to keep going up. So keep that in mind.
Thank you for your comments. We have another comment online, please. She's on mute.
Shannon, we can't hear you.
We still can't hear.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now, oh, we had you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. Hi there, everyone. Shannon McCarty, PGTA president, and I just wanted to speak at this time. I think I would like to vote Beth Shamas, the best speaker tonight, commentator for the teachers. I think she's doing a wonderful job. We as members of PGTA are also feeling that we are in negotiations, and we really feel like the district has a lot of money at this time in reserves, and a lot of money that they're getting from the state. And we teachers want to make sure that you remember that the cost of living has gone up everywhere. And it's gone up for your teachers. And so giving us a raise that's less than cost of living is not getting a raise, especially when our medical bills, our medical insurance is the worst in the county. And so I just want to make sure that our health benefits and our salaries are top of the line. It would be amazing if we could be one of these line items every year, that we didn't have to fight every year as teachers to get what cost of living and medical benefits. That actually pay for some of the medical things that we need. So I just wanted to make sure that you all know that we teachers have been really rallying together, and we have over 85% of our teachers that have signed a letter saying that we support our negotiators and that we are willing to go the distance. And we really hope that the district comes back with an offer that isn't something that is so small it doesn't really affect us, and most of us would take a pay decrease because of the cost of our insurance benefits going up every year. I just wanted to let everyone know that it's a really serious topic for us teachers. I'm sure that CSEA is right there with us, but at this point the teachers are very interested in making sure the district knows we are expecting that the district brings us something worth worth the cost of the effort that we're putting in. I think teachers have had it hard for the last couple of years, especially, but teaching in general is hard. And teachers need to be rewarded with being able to live in Pacific Grove where they work. At this point, so many teachers can't even live in Pacific Grove because of the costs of living, and we just haven't gotten that raise in a really long time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Okay, do I have a motion regarding the first interim?
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion from Dr. Frank Rivera, seconded by Trustee Carolyn. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 The motion carries 5-0. Next, F, approval of resolution number 1080, authorizing state preschool contract. And the district admin recommends that the board approve this, which will allow the district to continue to offer the state preschool program for 22-23 school year. And I hope we hear more about that from you right now.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Barbara Martinez. I'm the principal of Pacific Grove Adult School, as well as the director for the state preschool program and director of safety for the district. And you are correct. We are asking for an approval of the resolution. This is an annual item that we bring to you every year. It is presented as an action item today because we need the approval for the resolution to complete the contract, which is due tomorrow. So for many years, the district has participated in the state preschool program, offering preschool opportunities for students whose families meet the income eligibility requirement. And in order to continue participation in the program, the board must approve this resolution and authorize the contract, which we will submit. As we know, and as we were just presented by Assistant Superintendent Song Chinbendib, the district does support additional funding for the state preschool program in addition to BASRP. For the 22-23 school year, the projected contribution from the general fund to the state preschool program is going to be about $20,201. So the proposed contract for the state will allow the district to offer this program to a maximum enrollment of 14.42, which is rounds up to 15, equivalent student for 180 days. And we get reimbursed in the amount of $49.85 per student. So the maximum reimbursable amount is $122,899 in state funding into Fund 12. Do you have any questions?
Board questions now, please.
Yeah, 14.42.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
what
it's
is
a
that?
calculation that the state provides to us. It's a algorithm. if you will.
Okay, so it's not like biblical kid.
Yeah,
You take the
you can't take half the
time.
kids.
Okay. And then, wonderful program.
Yes.
Thank you so much for doing that. It says here on the first and only page, or no, just the first page where it says that it's asking for 20 grand from the general fund unless BASRP has fully resumed its after-school funding program. A couple of months ago, or it might have been a month ago, my time is off with this whole thing. I noticed that it was presented that BASRP is at the same numbers as it was pre-pandemic. So are those funds just lagging a year, or I'm not quite sure.
I'll defer to.
Yeah,
Sup-
exactly. Thank you,
We just started, so we don't know yet. At least in the budget, which you put it in there, it's better to have it and then and not have it. Then if the program needs it, then the general fund is already earmarked for all expenditures. So at this point, we still monitoring the receipts, and the receipts will come in and it depend on the season, on the sessions. So we'll see. That would be good if we don't need the contribution, the $20,000+, which we presented first interim is total for the two programs, state preschool and BSRP combines $1,000, but this is where we are at this point.
Okay, so it looks like from the numbers of attendance at BASRP that it looks good that we won't need this, but just in case. Thank
That's
you.
correct.
Cool, thank
And-
you.
And just in addition to that, we're looking to be held harmless due to low enrollment due to COVID, and we're hoping that our students come back to us so that we can continue to get that allocation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Swanson, any questions?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Trustee Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Christy. Barbara, what's the enrollment like at the state preschool?
Currently, there are 12 students.
More than when I visited, actually. Okay. I was gonna ask, but 12 is pretty close to 14.42. But what I was gonna ask was if we can, my question is, sorry, how do we advertise? How do we help the state preschool get students to enroll? How do we get that word out?
So we have through QRIS, some funding and some donation money that the program gets, and we advertise using those funds.
And is it radio advertising or newspaper or what is it?
Well, not radio. We haven't done radio. We've done Cedar Street and we've done the Monterey Herald.
Okay.
And Diane does precinct walking. I'm sure you know that. She goes door to
Yeah.
door.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's like primo.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to say, in the future, I would be in full support of putting money, as long as the rest of the board agrees, towards helping to recruit for the state preschool. I think it's a fantastic, very valuable program. And sometimes the folks that it serves, it's hard for them to know it exists. So I'm really, I'm so glad she's doing the precinct walking, continuing that. And that is all of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Path?
Ms. Martinez, you have 3 preschools going right now?
We have Pine Avenue. It's a parent education program, co-op preschool. And we also have Lighthouse Parent Education Co-op Preschool. And we also have the dual language parent education preschool program
Okay.
and state preschool.
Is there, and you've looked at some point, and are we continuing to look at putting them all in one spot? And what's the,
We are,
Actually, that's a different
we're in
downstream.
conversation. We've been meeting with Director Kelly and Assistant Superintendent Song to create a plan and a timeline to make that happen.
I go back and forth, and this is me, not probably reality and no data behind it, but that perhaps, is there a way of bringing these together under a more uniform roof? And maybe it doesn't make any sense to, but operating multiple versions of the same thing seems like it's not perfectly efficient. And on the other hand, this particular item is dealing with the state preschool, which is a separate entity because it has to be a separate entity. So maybe it makes no sense whatsoever.
And
I think that I should
yeah.
come back to only this, and I will stay with only this. Thank you for providing this, and I certainly support funding it fully. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to commend you. When I visited before, you're just so innovative and trying to look at ways to improve your programs over there. And it's very impressive. Are there any public comments at this time? Okay, no public comments. I move for approval of resolution 1080, authorizing state preschool contract.
Second.
Seconded by Carolyn Swanson, and the motion by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please. Yes.
Aye.
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 The motion carries 5-0. Next up, we'll look at the contract for services to Annixter Inc., a Wesco company for district-wide rekey and lever set replacement. Thank you, Director Kelly.
Good evening. Let's go to one. All right, so first one, district-wide rekey and lever set. So basically what we're doing here, and here's a picture of it, we are proposing replacing a majority of the lever sets in the district, and basically the lever set is just the handle of the door and the hardware. And it's mostly going to be in classrooms, high use areas, that some of our exterior doors that get used quite a bit, and like bathrooms and stuff like that. So some of the lever sets that we do have are still functionable. Like for instance, if you look at something like this, doesn't get used a lot, we won't replace that lever set. It's still got tons of life in it, and we're not gonna touch it. We may later on down the road have to with maintenance funds, but for now it's great. The other part of the project is actually, if I can point this out, is replacing this little part right here. And this is the whole key part of the system. It's the core. And so that's going to be the part that's going to be rekeyed. And that's really the something that needs to be happen for a safety wise, probably about every 10 years. We're probably somewhere around 20. And it's just basically, it has to do with key control and making sure there's not too many keys out there. People sometimes lose their keys, or they say they lose their keys and they may not. So to rekey the district and reissue all new keys is kind of a safety thing where you don't have people coming in and out of your building. So that's the other part of the project. The other thing we'll be doing is taking the high school and middle school gyms and doing an automated locking system with a keypad on it. And that way we can kind of control who's coming in and out of there. Staff will still be able to get in and out, but there'll be times on weekends where we'll be able to lock it and actually see who's coming in and out, so we don't have a lot of people using it and have a liability that way. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell. Right now, just kind of give you a little bit of a background. You don't know, all the keys and rekeying are done in-house. So we have a little machine and we have a program that we work with best, and it has all the keying in it, and we're able to rekey doors and redo the locks, make keys. This little coring system, we can redo that. So everything gets done in-house. This lever set is great because it's only got about 6 or 7 moving parts, so it's easy to repair, and it lasts, like we said, like we've seen, quite a while. So any questions?
Yes, do you want to go first?
Well, so you have a classroom key, and that has a site master and then a universal master. So these are 3.
Yeah, basically what we have is we issue classroom keys, and then we have what's called a submaster.
Yep.
And that would go to a principal or someone that has to get to every door in that site. And then we have a grand master, which goes to just a few people in the district that have to get into every room or classroom on site.
Perfect. Thanks. I appreciate the update. And yeah, 20 years is a long time. So thanks.
Trustee Caroline, any questions?
Can you just talk a little bit about what the 9K intruder system is?
So we have the system already in place. They've kind of updated a little bit with the little picture. I forgot to show that picture, but there's a picture that shows, that would be the interior part of it, where it shows to lock and unlock. And it's kind of something that came out after Columbine, where teachers had to go out into the hallways to lock doors, and they ended up getting injured. So they did this system where you can lock from the inside, and a teacher didn't have to go outside to do it. So basically that's what the intruder lock is that anyone can lock it from the inside. And what we do is we key it differently. So it's got a different core on the inside than it does on the outside. Any staff member that has a key, like for a restroom or anything else, can lock the door from the inside. So if there's an active shooter, they can lock the door.
Okay, and there's not a way to lock the door if you don't have a key. You can't just push a button like some of the doors here.
No,
right?
you can't. So it's kind of the same thing. If you you can push it to lock it, you can push it to unlock it.
Okay.
So it's kind of and we have the lock blocks too. So what we try to tell people is lock it,
Mhm.
engage the lock block. So all you have to do is unengage the lock block and pull it closed. And so you don't have to worry about locking it from the
Yeah.
inside.
And I've heard positive feedback about those. I mean, how have those been working? Because those have been implemented for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I think they work great as long as the door is closed. But if you have a lock block on your door and the door is open,
Hmm.
it doesn't work as great.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Those are all my comments.
Trustee Brian?
I remember when this first came up and we were just, I mean, long before we went out for the bond too, and this was one of the items that was on there and I was astounded at the amount of money
Yeah.
that it cost. And in looking at this breakdown, I see the original budget amount was $500,000 and the contract amount is 255, which is great. Is there another expenditure coming or is this really coming in 245 grand under?
Yes and no. When we originally budgeted for the project, we were looking at an automated system, which is quite a bit more. Actually, it's even more than 500,000. I think it was closer to like 750,000. It didn't work, I think, the way we wanted it to work as far as safety. I thought there was a lot of gaps and a lot of mistakes that could happen with it. It was wireless, it had batteries. There was a lot of things that could go wrong, even in an incident or a safety incident that we were trying to lock and it didn't work. So we made the decision to just go with what we know, that works really, really well. They're built like a brick house. And so we decided to go with that and not risk, going with something brand new and spend $750,000 and not have it work the way we want it to work.
Great. Seems like a wise choice. Appreciate the presentation.
Sure.
Thank you, Matt.
Trustee Rivera?
Thank you for the presentation. The only comment I had was just how large of the amount, same comment as Trustee Swanson, is pretty expensive, but then me, I'm still astonished at how much a truck key costs. But no further comment. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. When you mentioned knowing who's going in and out, that would be given to you that information from the cameras and stuff, or?
From the key code.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would be able to monitor who's there, who's not
Right.
there.
And then at times you can actually close down the key code. So if no one, except for like, if you had like a grand master key code, you could get in. So there, times in the middle of the night when we want to just completely lock the place and no one can get in, that's when that would engage.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for this information. Is there any public comment about this? Not at this time. Okay. A motion, please.
Motion to approve?
Okay. Okay. The motion was made by Dr. Rivera and seconded by Trustee Paff. Roll call vote. Aye.
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 Hi.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll look at the contract for services to Park Planet for Pacific Grove High School baseball bleachers. And we conveniently have Director Kelly ready.
All right. So this is a project that is not on the Series A. We're actually going to be using some of the funds that we've saved over the other projects that we've been able to come in under budget. This is a project that came up after the board approved the Series A, and it came up during the playoffs last year of baseball when we had quite a bit of people sitting in these bleachers right here, and the structural integrity of it was starting to make myself and other people a little nervous because it was starting to bow. And so, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to change that, but same one. So we wanted to put this project as baseball season's coming up. I was talking to the new baseball coach of redoing the bleachers and not only including this structure, which he said he thought was from the old Fort Ord. I'm not sure where it came from. It has been updated or tried to be repaired a couple times, but it's pretty much done. So along with that one, we're going to look at the one that says Breaker Baseball, which is structurally just it's at its end too as well. and needs to be replaced. And then we're going to take this other one on the right-hand side and move it over to the JV field. Their bleachers are not quite as great, need a little bit of an upgrade. The aluminum one is still in really good shape, so we can reuse it for there. And in addition, we're going to take down the press box, which is pretty much dry rotted and termite damaged, and the stairs are no longer safe to go up. And so we're going to remove that. I'll be working with the coach over the next couple of years to try to replace it with something else. But in the meantime, we do have a temporary solution for a place where they can do score and they can announce the games. And so we're going to replace with 3 sets of bleachers. One of the larger one, which is right here, which has this ADA type of stairs to move up. This will be on the home side. And then we're going to put 2 of these smaller ones, one on the home side and then one on the visitor side. Just have a little bit more safety. They're made out of aluminum. We're going to do a little bit of grading to help out the leveling, move the bleachers closer to not only the back of home plate, but closer to the cages as well. And we hope spectators will be quite a bit more safe sitting in those. And then here is a picture of the press box, not press box, but the announcer's booth and scorekeeper's booth that we'll be replacing that big structure with. So again, as we look at the funding for it, we had $221,000 in Series A contingency. We used $15,000 for the flooring, and then this bleachers are going to be $75,000. So that leaves it now a balance of 129. And so, and I put a little note back here. It said I did end up moving some money from the savings of the KNL into the Series A contingency. That was between the last board meeting. We had all the last billing that came through, so I was able to move that money into contingency. So, and that's it. So any questions?
Okay, let's find out. All right, no questions from trustee Brian Swanson,
None here.
trustee Carolyn.
Thank you, Christy. Matt, I'm glad you went to that baseball game. Saw this stuff. That's great. Actually, no, I don't have any questions. This one question I have is more of a broad question. I'm going to save it for future agenda items. So no, thank you. I don't have any comments.
Okay, trustee Papp.
So aluminum for the, all these structures?
Yeah, they're basically aluminum. Yeah.
Okay, and the wheel-in structure that for the press box and announcer table, we're gonna leave it permanent, correct? When we're not, it is wheeled, but for us, that's wheeled once.
Yes, correct. Yes, we'll put it in there once, and that's about it. We can move it if we ever need to move it, but yeah, it'll be wheeled in there once.
Okay, and your anticipation is somewhere downstream, you actually build something a little bit higher, just a semi-permanent installation. And
Yeah, we do have a Series B project for the baseball, which we're going to look at some of the fencing and some other safety things that we had to upgrade out in both the JV and the varsity. But as far as like higher for the press box or for the bleachers?
well, for the press box, the bleachers are whatever height they end up at.
Yeah,
6.
I think that's about the height right now that we'll be at. As we were kind of looking at the back part of home plate is that we can have more spectators stand back behind home plate and see the game more. With that big structure there, they couldn't see a lot of what was going
That's a
on.
good
So we're
point.
trying to open up some visibility for the audience. For spectators.
Thank you very much. And yeah, these, like the stadium, when Beth voted for a new stadium, these bleachers, well, those were big splinters, and this is time to replace. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's also nice that the football field looks so stunning to also include baseball is
Right.
very nice as well. So it'll really class the joint up, so to speak. Dr. Rivera?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. The pictures of the bleachers looks sad. So I'm glad that we're doing that. Here it says the press box and snack bar behind home plate will be removed under a separate contract. And you said Series B, there'll be plans for the snack bar. I'm asking because I know that's where the Breaker Club pulls a lot of their
Right.
money. And if are they going to have a place for the spring?
We will have a place, and we haven't figured out quite what we're gonna do yet, but I've been talking with the Breakers Club and the coach, and we have a couple ideas. We're just need to implement them. And then as far as the demo part, I put that in there because I wasn't quite sure where our crews were gonna be as far as doing other projects. So I may bring it back for approval for the demo. If we have availability, we would try to do it in-house, but so I just put that in there just so you guys knew that we may have some more coming back.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Any public comment at this time? Okay, not at this time. I move we accept the contract for services to Park Planet for Pacific Grove High School baseball bleachers.
Second.
The motion was made by Christy Dawson and seconded by John Paff. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Hi.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll look at the project development agreement with INGIE for solar assessment and recommendation.
Great. Can you put Emily Douglas on? There you go. And I'm not sure if Emily, if you have someone else, when you come on, you can let me know.
My colleague Dave Baldwin is online as well.
So I'll just introduce this as we're waiting for him to get on. So back in September, we had NG come in and give us a presentation on solar. And in that, we would have to enter into they gave us some numbers on what they thought they would projected numbers would look like as far as savings based off of our energy costs. And what the next step in the process is to do an agreement with NG to do a full investigation. And so the board would enter into this contract, and NG would do their investigation, their analysis, and bring back that report. And at that point, the board would decide if they wanted to move ahead with solar. In that case, the contract amount for this would roll into the implementation part of the project. If the board decided not to, then we would owe this balance to NG within, I think, 30 days or so. So with that, I will let them present what they have and go from there.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I don't have slides or anything to share with any of you tonight, but as Matt so eloquently said, this is an update on the conversation we had a few months ago about the potential for solar power at the district. There is a little bit of policy change that means if the district really ever wants to go solar, we should get those applications in between January and May if we can, to ensure we reserve the best rates for you. That's paper applications, nothing needing to happen on your site or nothing even needing to go to contract before then. But we just want to make sure we get into the technical development process quickly here so that we can get you in line for the best return on your investment. And then we would come back to the board with real firm numbers on exactly what a solar project would look like and energy guarantees behind it and all of that. So I look forward to any questions anyone has on the development agreement.
Okay, thank you so much. No questions? Do you have a question? Trustee Carolyn?
Thank you. No questions.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking for just a little bit more information on, so the recommendation is to, get something going between January and May to, take advantage of something that's going to save us money. Can you just expound on that a little? What are we going to miss if we don't get it done by May?
Sure. Let me think without going too much on energy policy. Right now, there's a program called net energy metering that essentially pays the district retail rates for solar that it produces. By May, we will move to the next phase of net energy metering. And that's what the Public Utilities Commission has determined. They've got a proposed decision that actually came out Monday. It'll be finalized in January. When that proposed decision takes effect in May, instead of paying maybe 18 cents for every unit of energy, PG&E will pay you 5 cents for every unit of energy that you produce from solar power. That's summarizing a lot of fees and times of use and calculations like that. But it's a real dramatic reduction in what PG&E will compensate the district for when it produces solar power under these rates.
Right, and I have a vague recollection of you touching upon that in your previous presentation. So thank you for just bringing that to mind.
And it's breaking news even this week too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and I know that fluctuates, and but thank you just for jogging my memory on that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Dr. Rivera.
Trustee Brian asked the same question I had, so thank you very much.
Yeah, we're obviously would be moving forward with the best intention with the $40,000 there. I know we did this in my last district and it paid off in a huge way. I don't know how you just move forward indefinitely without using it. I'm big on this and I'm glad to see we're moving ahead. Public comment on this, please. Okay, no public comment at this time. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Dr. Rivera, seconded by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, contract for
Thank
services
you, Emily.
with Pedroso Consulting. Hear from Director Martinez.
Hi, everybody. Barbara Martinez, Principal of Pacific Grove Adult Education. And tonight I'd like you to consider recommending review and approve the contract for service with Pedroso Consulting for conducting the Monterey Peninsula Adult Ed Consortium 3-year plan. All 71 adult ed consortia in California are required to produce a 3-year plan for adult education and submit it to the California Adult Ed Program to the state. For each 3-year planning cycle, Monterey Peninsula Adult Education Consortium engages in a comprehensive strategic planning process that includes extensive review of our current programs, regional needs, and consultation and planning with our faculty, students, and key community partners. We have contracted with Pedroso 3 years ago, and before that, we've done gallery walks and our own surveys within our own partners districts. So Pedroso Consulting has extensive experience with working with adult education consortia throughout the state of California. And as you know, our partners within our consortia are Monterey Peninsula College, Carmel Adult School, Monterey Peninsula District Adult School, and Pacific Grove Adult Ed. So we did contract with our previous 3-year plan, and they are currently providing 3-year planning services with other consortia such as Watsonville and Salinas Valley. So Pedroso Consulting's outreach efforts for the Monterey Peninsula Adult Ed Consortia will take place on the Monterey Peninsula from January to April. They're going to conduct 2-pronged effort to conduct data among adult ed students and community members who have not been enrolled in education using a combination of online and in-person surveys, along with 2 consortia-wide focus groups to gather information. The amount of the contract for services with Pedroso is $40,000 to be paid in 3 stages, $15,000 to be paid as soon as the contract is authorized, and 2 equal payments of $12,500 to be paid on February 15th and again on April 30th, 2022. The contract timeframe is January 1st of 2022 to April 30th, 2022. This contract for service has previously been budgeted. In this year's budget, we planned on using these services again to help us gain knowledge about adult ed students so that we didn't duplicate services amongst all of our adult school sites that we set very clear goals outlined in our 3-year plan submitted to the state. That's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, we'll find out if we do. Trustee Carolyn?
You may have already covered it, but do all the members of the consortia contribute to this assessment and survey?
Yes. So in a capacity, depending on the amount of their carryover, we had a very healthy carryover this year. And so when we meet, we discuss which member has the resources to put forth for the contract. There are other elements to the contract in writing the 3-year plan, and the other members are paying for that, their portion.
Okay, so this entire project, our contribution to this entire project is the 40 grand.
Yes,
There may be other folks contributing other amounts. Okay,
yes.
those are all my questions.
Okay.
Trustee Bryan?
No question, just a real quick applaud of your efforts. I know you've always been on top of this and you've found ways to bring the money in and keep it going, and it's impressive. And I just wanted to recognize you for that.
Thank you. It's been difficult.
Dr. Rivera?
Yes, just thank you for doing this.
Barbara, just to be clear, we are required to put out a survey and go out on a regular basis, correct, for the use of the funds that we get under the consortium to begin with.
There are many different avenues and conduits
Yeah.
that we can gather the information. We want it to be consistent and equitable. All of us had questions with the last survey that we did, and we came together and we are refining our questions. The same questions will be asked within each member. And then when we gather that data, we will present it. We'll present the results, and then that's how we develop our goals and what programs that we offer our community based on need.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I think my question was actually, by accepting the funds that we get generally from the state for these consortia, we have a requirement to go out and do these independent surveys?
It is a requirement.
It is a
of the-
requirement.
It is a
So if
requirement.
we're going to continue this, somebody, maybe not us, but somebody somewhere has to actually have this under the consortium name.
Yes.
So perfect. Just to be clear. Thank you so very much. And this looks great. So thanks.
I always appreciate how adult ed can pivot in some way so quickly to make changes, and you're out there seeking new avenues all the time. This is very impressive, and I think it's so meaningful as you're mentioning in here, to go find people who wouldn't normally make it to your door. So to find them and get them involved, very exciting.
It's good to note that in order to get the continued allocation that we get
Yeah.
every year, we have to spend down. And so having a large carryover in that respect really allowed us to help the consortia with this contract.
That's great. Thank you so much. Any public comment about this today? Not at this time.
Thank you.
I move we accept the contract for services with Pedroso Consulting,
Second.
seconded by John Paff, the motion by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. There's a tiny red octopus now with pointing towards the sky that says the next thing we should do tonight, I think, is a new job description regarding robotics coaching. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, trustees, members of the public, excuse me. I'm very excited to bring this job description forward tonight. It's been a long time coming. Dr. Rivera spoke tonight about all the great things that the robotics team is doing. And they're doing it with basically 2 people leading the charge. And we have Sally Richmond, and then we have Roby that does a lot of the work along with Sally for the events and the competitions and getting the kids ready for those type things. So with that, the position itself is funded through donations. And we're bringing it forward this evening at a stipend that would be added to the stipend list in the PGTA contract at $3,717 for the 21-22 school year. And I hope you've all had a chance to read the description. And so with that, we would recommend approval of the job description.
Thank you so much. Comments, please?
So Billy, as with everybody who's a coach, they go through Keenan or similar
Yes, yeah,
and background checks, right, as we all have done at this point.
Right.
So it's as regular staff. And that's true for universally for our coaching staff. So,
yes.
okay, thank you.
And Laura Lee is very good at following through with the athletics anyways.
Yes, trustee Swanson.
So you'd said that the funds presently come through donations. Is it something going forward that would come from general fund or?
That could be discussed.
Okay, all right. I mean, I don't care. I've been to, I mean, I care.
It's getting
It's
late, but
because
you
I
do.
care. I'm just glad that we have it. I have gone to a few robotics competitions when my youngest was in middle school, and they are fantastic. And I mean, it's a little chaotic, but it's really cool because the first time I went, it's like, what are they going to be doing? And just to watch everything happening and the instant problem solving skills that these kids are learning, being able to think in that very moment was fascinating to watch, and the team building. And so I'm all for it. I'm glad that we have it. It's a fantastic program, and we should absolutely continue to support it.
Great. Trustee Carolyn.
Thank you, President Dawson. I was at a board meeting several years ago when they brought a huge, almost human-sized robot in and twirled it around. And it was, you could tell there was a lot of passion in that program. So I fully support this for sure. And I was hoping that the cover sheet would be more clear because I had a similar question as Brian Swanson, where it says, we've got a donation, but also now here's a job description. So what is staff's recommendation on this?
As far as,
Are you asking us to fund it as a district, or are you just asking us to approve the job
I'm
description?
asking you right now to approve the job description.
Okay,
In the PGTA contract, there's that entire list of stipends,
Mhm.
and some of them are funded and some of them are not. And oftentimes, I think it actually was explained earlier in the evening where at certain times there might not be enough participation in a particular stipend area. And so that then we might move that money to something else that's unfunded to get it, up and running.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Dr. Rivera.
Yes, thank you. And the only comments I have is just, further praise for what I saw. Thank you again for the invitation. Being able to see Riptide up close was really cool. Yes, I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I think robotics, I've seen them in education start with just almost nothing. In my last district, it became a class, and we look at stipends, and this is a stipend that by the end of it, they're probably making about 30 cents an hour for the amount of time that goes in and dedication. A lot of times weekends, nights, all kinds of different things. I just think it's such the wave of the future, not only problem solving, but everybody gets these challenges. Everybody's got to get together and figure it out, and the competition's fabulous. So we've got a huge excitement from the board to move forward with this. Any comments from people visit? Well, here's someone. She might know something about this.
Sally Richmond, Pacific Grove High School, Breakerbots faculty advisor. I want to thank Billy for the work that she put in getting the job description done. We've been working on this for 5 or 6 years, and I'm not exaggerating. The point that I would like to make is that these donations that are funding this came from the team. And this was our blood, sweat, and tears that went into raising that 3,700 and whatever dollars. And so I would respectfully request that in the future, this be funded by the school district rather than by the students and myself. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that information. Any other public comment at this time?
Hi, Beth Chamas. Well, I just noticed that this is on action, action discussion. And so you're ready to take action on these things. It's the first reading. And it's for this one and for the next one, new job description, for the revised job description for information technology, for updates. And I'm just kind of curious why it's not in an information meeting first and then an action meeting next. Because you give people no chance on really commenting on this unless they happen to see it right away. And these things I think are kind of interesting to negotiators because these are impacts to the budget. So classified and PGTA would probably have something to say about how these are going to be implemented. So I'm just wondering, what is the hurry on? I've noticed this many times that things come up, and it's the very night you brought it up, it hasn't been brought up before, and you're acting on it. Some things, of course, are important and need to be. I don't know about this.
President Dawson, can I
Yes.
just interject for a quick second too?
Yes, please.
I think it's important to point out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're approving here is a job description. We're not actually approving funding a position, which could come later, but we're actually just approving a job description, are we not?
Yes. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hadquist?
I just wanted to give some recognition to the robotics coach, who's been a longtime coach, Sally Richmond. There's not something that, there's almost nothing that goes on at the high school that she's not involved in. Every time I'm in a meeting, Sally's there, and she's just works tirelessly. So just super grateful.
Thanks, Larry. I'll still be working for free, by the way. The stipend is not for me, which would be a discussion for another day.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other public comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the new job description of robotics coach.
Second.
Motion was made by trustee Brian Swanson and seconded by trustee Frank Rivera. Roll call vote. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have a new job description, which is a licensed mental health therapist.
Yes, and so this job description, again, as you said, is brand new. It has been discussed previously. It was discussed in a presentation that Ani did, and I think Claire, where they were giving the details, actually not details, but an overview of the ESSER 3 funding and what they plan to use it for. And this was one of the identified areas. So this is a specially funded position. It is not funded through general fund. And our certificated staff and classified staff have expressed that this is very much needed in the district, as well as our administrators. So with that, we hope that you approve this job description and or make additional recommendations.
Thank you very much. Trustee Swanson.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Carolyn.
Thank you. Billy, what's the timing like on this position? If we approve it tonight, what would that look like for recruiting and hiring?
We would, well, next week's our break, isn't it? I was going to say we would start putting it out next week. I think I'll talk to my staff and see what we can do, but we'll try to get this out. If not, early next week, as soon as we get back. But I would like to use the time that we're away as time that this is out there,
Yes.
where people can see it and then have it close, next year. So,
Okay, so the position would begin next school year and then
Right.
work for the full next school year. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then I looked through the job description. I didn't see it. It could be in there. Is there any preference to a bilingual, specifically Spanish teaching
yeah,
person?
typically, depending on the job, of course, but we don't put that in the job description. We might put it on the job posting. So,
Okay. Okay. And then lastly, just for recruitment for this position, to me, this is a really important position, safety wise and otherwise. And obviously it's important to you because you spent all this time making this job description for a temporary position. But it's really important for the district. And so I was curious what avenues you're going to take to recruit a person who perhaps reflects more of our student base or can kind of help our targeted populations. So are you going to simply post it on the website for EdJoin, or are you going to kind of reach out to maybe working groups or professional groups or that kind of specialize in helping targeted groups for crises?
I actually know, just through discussing this, actually with Lito Garcia, that our administration is already reaching out to people that are interested in the position that are in the professional workforce right now. So yeah, those would be all the areas that we would be looking, to recruit from.
Okay, thank you.
We have funding for 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm a little confused with this next year. Are you talking about in January? Are you talking about in August?
January.
Okay. So, yeah, when
I'm
school.
sorry.
No,
Yeah.
because I thought that was a little miscommunication because I think in education, we talk about next year starting in 2 weeks. But in other times, sometimes educationally, they push it out. Dr. Rivera, do you have any questions?
No, I was going to say in education, my year goes from August to June.
Yeah, I said it backwards. It's getting light, but you caught me.
So one-time funds, 2 years funded. Maybe this is a job post versus a job description thing. I noticed there was no time frame listed on the job description. Is that just something that's put on like the job posting?
Right,
Okay.
correct.
Great. I'm so glad we're doing this. Thank you.
Yes. Can I really want to hear from Trustee Paff again.
So here we come back to public comment a little bit earlier. In the case of a 3,717 stipend for a position that's been in play and people have been actively doing it for, I want to say 10 years now. We're going to fund it and we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually hire them, right? But here we're actually just saying this and then we're immediately looking out without actually approving the next step, which is, are we actually going to hire for this? And it's a done deal, it sounds like, that by approving this, we are immediately going out to hire. Is that correct?
It is correct. That's the plan, is to immediately go out to hire,
So
as
it's
this
not-
was part of the ESSER 3 funding plan that was presented to the board.
So under that, we're saying we have approved this position and now we're writing the description.
Yes.
And we sort of approved it
Yeah, I understand.
already with the funding, right? And then but in order to go out and recruit it, you had to write the job description. And so then you'll go out and post it and actually recruit. And then ultimately it'll come up as hopefully as a hire. And then 2 years down the road, if there's no other source of funding, we'll struggle with how to continue to pay for it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Right,
Thanks,
so.
Bob.
Okay, any public comment at this time? There's one person. All right.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say I really think that with regard to this position that there should be an emphasis on a bilingual mental health provider, as well as someone who can also reach intersectional populations in the school community, working with LGBTQIA plus students and non-white students and English as a second language students. I think they should be able to have the capacity to work with all students, and also being careful not to recruit within the school's own social and community networks, because I think that that can become problematic when you have hired friends of friends, and making sure to reach out to the greater community. And also, I think it's a good opportunity to find representation in a position for students who need that representation. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you for your input. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, we'll go ahead with a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
I second. Motion was made by Dr. Rivera, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please. Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll look at a revised job description for information technology technician.
So this position is being brought to you this evening. Our plan is to upgrade our elementary computer lab techs. The position is moving towards something. It's not what it is right now. It's going to be more of what you see more at the high school and secondary with mobile labs and that type of thing. And I think actually Director Binder can explain it a little bit better. And if he's out there, we'll give him a chance to speak. But what we found in a comparison of the new job description and then the classroom technician position is that there were only a couple of areas that were different. The majority of it was the same work, and it has changed over time. So we're moving a little bit away from that typical in-row computer lab to more of a modular feeling. So I had highlighted in yellow on this the unique positions or unique duties at the elementary school versus the secondary school. And at elementary, the techs are basically are also teaching students, where at secondary, they're not. And at the secondary, they're managing their authorized budget, their technology budget. At the elementary school, they're not. So those are a few of the differences in the position. We also, in bringing this forward, it's going to create a more cohesive department where all the techs are at a level playing field and getting the same salary range. This has been discussed with CSEA and with their regional rep, and they approve of it. So with that, we would like the board to review this, approve it, or give other recommendations.
Thank you very much. Trustee Carolyn?
Thank you, President Dawson. Yeah, I was reading through this. I would like to see, I'd really like to see a information technology department strategic plan overall. We have a department here that has 2 directors, and I also recall when the coordinator position was voted to be a director, we asked about change in policy. And it was kind of told to us that, well, we're already paying him a director level, so we don't need to, sorry, change in salary, not change in policy. We realized that we were paying a coordinator a director level salary, and that didn't sit well with me. I kind of had this in the back of my mind. And so when this position came up on the agenda, I wanted to bring that up. So for me, I'd like to see an IT strategic plan with kind of laid that out, its hierarchy, its org chart, if you will, before I can really get behind any changes. Thank you.
Trustee Swanson?
Well, when I look at this, I mean, essentially, Billy, or the changes are these are sort of changes that address in the job description things that need to be done by the people that are already in those positions. Is that correct?
Correct.
So in order for us to do those, to ask them to do those, and I'm guessing too, it's union driven as well, that if they're going to do this item A or item B, then it needs to become part of the job description, and the job description drives the pay. Is that about right?
Yes, and it's actually merging, it's merging two job descriptions
Mhm.
into one. This actually is being brought forward by the technology, the IT director and Matthew Binder.
Mhm.
They've met with the employees in that department and came forward with this as what they feel is a reasonable solution for supporting the schools in the future, and looking at how the lab component is changing overall throughout the district, and changing really what we see now is that the elementary schools are going to be really look differently in how they receive their services.
Great, thank you. I mean, I'm not opposed to a broader examination of what we're doing overall in that area, but as I look at this, it reminds me of the difference between, when you've got union stagehands and they're allowed to do this, but they're not allowed to do that unless they're paid this. And in order to get them to do this, we have to pay them that. So I'm satisfied with what I'm seeing, and I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you.
So from what you're saying, the people that are currently in the jobs are amenable to these changes currently?
Yes.
Okay, that sure helps. Dr. Rivera?
Thank you. Just kind of bounce off or to add on to Trustee Bryan's question, because they're instructing students, do they need to be certified?
No, these they're under they're working with students under with the teacher present. So they might be working in class with students, or it might be a situation where they're going to the modular lab and moving through the different components.
Okay, so no, we won't be running into that issue.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Paff?
Okay, so the short and easy one, fiscal impact starts August or January?
This one would be January.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I should have put the date on there.
and $4,000 a year, is that total or for each tech
That is total
per year?
for a complete year.
So I'm kind of understanding what Carolyn's asking here. She's, we fundamentally don't necessarily have, we added a lot of stuff in a hurry because we had to add a lot of stuff in a hurry, right? At the beginning of 2020, literally March of 2020. So we have computer labs in the elementaries. I'm not sure why we have computer labs at the elementaries anymore. We don't have a computer lab at the high school or middle school anymore, right? And we don't have cows or calves, which we started out in 2013 having. We are now one-to-one devices at the elementaries for all intents and purposes, whatever those are. And how do we play our techs into those, into what the actual technology is these days, instead of, you know, having a separate room? And where are we going to go with that? And I think it's a separate question from this. This to me is pretty easy. But I think, in fact, trying to address that, and we've started it and touched on it. And again, it's not today's question, but we do need to touch on it a little bit further and provide that that flow chart.
That's exactly what the tech department is intending to do. We recognizing we're in a transition period. We know exactly where we need to head. It's right in the direction you're talking about. It's just simply trying to mobilize this change with folks that, you know, are it's a hard for people to make change sometimes. And we're making that transition as quickly and efficiently as we can. The right people are in the right places. This change was needed to help support just some of the already transition pieces. So yeah, no, that's great. And Director Binder's all over it. He knows exactly where we need to head with that. And
Dr. Morris. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll address the concern right now as far as where the plan is. It's the current revision status, and we are working on it. We plan to bring it in front of, this would be the updated ed tech plan for the district. We plan on bringing that and presenting it sometime likely in February, perhaps March, when we have the input of hopefully the input of the director of technology on board with it. Again, that position is we're still pursuing as a fill. In regards to where this stands and the efforts that it entails, really it's to bridge the divide that was created when the secondary site tech position was revised, leaving behind the elementary. And so what we did is we saw that there was a disparity once that secondary position was revised. And this is in an effort to essentially bring the team closer together to align the two levels more closely. And it does it with the view of what we intend to prevent what's going to happen to the elementary computer labs as we try to transform them into kind of modern, updated, flexible learning spaces, which has the technology in it, but also it can be used for a variety of other types of learning experiences. So that's really where it's at. We are in the process of revising the technology plan. We should have that ready to go and present it to you, like I said, sometime in February or March.
Thank you for letting us know. Comment?
Hello, Board. Interim Director of IT, Raymond DeVos. As Director Billy and Director Mankey and Director Binder have mentioned, this has been more of a question about disparity. Before I was hired 2 years ago over at the adult school, when the position was vacant, as well as the high school position was vacant, they had been reclassified, but we did not reclassify the other positions, the middle school and the two elementaries. The middle school has recently been reclassified, and so now this is just a further push to make sure that we're all on the same level. I did want to also mention on the comment about the two directors. So we do have two directors in the technology department because the technology department is split into two halves. The first half is the ed tech, education technology. That's Mr. Binder's department. That's more about the Synergy SIS system, curriculum, things like that. And then there's the information technology department, and that's more about hardware such as the Chromebooks, the network, security cameras, things like that. The last comment I just want to make is I hope, especially after last year, it's been shown that every member in my team works very hard to make sure that all of our technology needs are met and we don't have any gaps or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. And it sounds like we'll get a more in-depth study about what you guys are doing in that February meeting. Yes?
That's the intent. Yes.
Perfect. Is there any other public comment at this time? I move that we accept the revised job description for information technology technician.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call vote. Aye.
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 Next, we'll move to the updates.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's to the updates to board policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities, and board policy and regulation 4030, non-discrimination in employment. We'll hear from Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a pretty straightforward update. As we have mentioned previously, from time to time, mandated policies are sent to legal counsel for updates and revisions according to education code and federal code, state code. It was time for these non-discrimination policies to be reviewed by legal counsel, which was done. Our attorney, Sarah Kotz, and her team reviewed this. And so what you see is a product of that work. These policies in particular are not of the creative variety. They are mandated and directed, and the way they're written are written to comply with current law. So these are updates as recommended by legal counsel.
Thank you so much. Board, we can start with trustee Paff.
I have no comments on either 410, 430.
Thank you. Trustee Carolyn.
I do have a couple of comments. Thank you, President Dawson. My first comment is I do see that tonight we do have a new regulation. I realize it's not a new policy, but I would like to request that does get a second reading and not be fully approved tonight for the brand new one.
If I may.
Yeah.
Typically regulations are actually not always brought to the board. The policies are.
Mhm.
It's not typical practice to always bring regs as well. We have in the past. It's not a requirement. And legal counsel, I asked that question of legal counsel. She said the board had the authority to go ahead and pass it simply because we don't typically do it. It's a management process.
Because it's a regulation, not a policy.
Correct.
Yeah, I understand.
So anyway,
Thank you.
but we'll move forward with whatever the board prefers.
Okay, thanks. And then I just wanted to confirm on the cover sheet as well as on the items. Are those the proper policy numbers in the information paragraph? They're 0430 and 0410. But then in the recommendation, they're 4030 and the subject line. I think some of the numbers are perhaps transposed and they're
4030.
It really is?
4030.
Okay, so it's just inaccurate.
It's a it's transposition.
So it's meant to be 4030?
The policy is 4030.
And 4010.
4010, yeah.
0410.
Not 04. So they shouldn't be, none of these should be the zeros.
Correct. It's been mistyped on the cover.
They should be in the,
Yeah,
all of
pol-
them should be in the 4,000.
Yeah, correct. The policies that are included inside are the correct numbers. That's an oversight.
Actually, in the actual items, some of them start with a 0 and some of them start with a 4.
Okay, we'll make sure those get corrected.
Mandy, if you look at 356. You're, yeah.
No, I know what she's
Oh, okay, never mind.
I think that it is 4030
Yeah.
and 0410. They are two separate. I'm
Really?
sure I'm looking through my emails from our legal counsel.
Oh, yes,
They
she's
are
right.
confirmed that.
Mhm.
But they don't, because I remember thinking it was weird that it start with the same number, but. I'll continue to ask my questions while you
Sure.
check. Okay, so one thing that I did see in 0410 in the non-discrimination and district programs and activities that I was hoping we could discuss as a board and maybe add to it. There's a line in there that talks about that our documents should be translated for our community members, our families, if we have a certain percentage of primarily, like, for example, Spanish-speaking families. And I'd like to talk about as a board, if we would be open to doing that regardless of our percentage, because I think that we've heard so much about how our targeted groups there is this academic gap. And then with COVID, it's exacerbated. And so I'd love to see that in policy, that we're going to make every effort to truly translate communications into Spanish specifically. And yeah, go ahead, John.
Where are you looking specifically? What page?
0410, 1 second. It's page 358,
Thank you.
the second paragraph.
Thank you.
Sure. So those are my two main concerns, is if the board can talk about codifying truly translated communications, and then just that possible error in the numbering. Is that, so it's just an error in the cover sheet?
It's not an error. It's just different numbers.
Well,
So if you look on page 356, it says policy 0430 on the fourth paragraph down under information. And it's policy 4030. And then the one underneath is policy 0410.
0410 is the correct,
Yeah.
and then the 0430 should read 4030.
okay,
That's we just had a little bit of transposed number on there.
okay, excellent. Thank you.
Dr. Rivera?
No, I'm perfectly okay with this. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions at this time too. I'm happy when we get these updates in, and I like it.
So there was a question put forth, which is part of this policy and should be discussed, I think, as part of the policy. Which is, we are using, what you'd like is full translation and not just machine translation. Is that correct?
First of all, translation from any mechanism would be appreciated. There's so much that goes out that isn't. And then if possible, things like our high school catalog, which I think is already in the works, but there's so many communications that don't come through the board for us to address individually and say, hey, can this be translated? Can this be translated? So I'd like for it to be adopted into the culture of the district.
That seems to me a discussion for a different time. I mean, I think it's good you bring it up, but does that need to be decided at this moment? Is that what you're requesting?
Well, it's in our policy, and this is the time to codify it.
If I may, that line in that policy is a federal and state requirement. But the way it's written is federally required. And I think what Trustee Carolyn is asking is that there'd be more added to the policy in this particular line, although again, it can be added. We can add that policy elsewhere as necessary. It's included this way because that's the way it's written in the law.
Yeah, I think we have, our district is so unique because we don't always meet the federal or the state limits to kind of trigger supports for certain groups, but we do have those certain groups here. And we do have almost, is it 20% of our families are Hispanic? I don't know what percentage we have are primarily Spanish speaking, but over the course of this year, we've just heard so much about our targeted groups. And so I was thinking we could add something perhaps to the policy or perhaps to the regulation.
John has a question.
Ralph, what
would be the drawback of putting a timeline to putting policy and communication out? I mean, you can't do it tomorrow, but if we said, look, let's translate as we go through.
Everything you're talking
Put it
about?
through. Well, it is an everything sort of statement.
That would take it would be a project for sure. I mean, there's a lot of policy, a lot in there. We don't typically, I don't know very many districts that typically translate out all of the policy.
Yeah.
I think the intent of this non-discrimination policy, the way it's written and the reason for translation is because the due process involved with discrimination applies heavily to, distinct populations.
Can I clarify for a second?
Go ahead.
I
and
think
then I'll
maybe
tell
my
you one.
question has maybe gotten twisted. So in the policy right now, it does mention that the non-discrimination policy and related information materials will be presented in a translated form. I'm talking about district communications like school handbooks and.
I think that's what
You got
he's
it.
saying.
Okay, thank you.
It's non-trivial, right? It's an over 2-year period to try and get certain things. And you said the next time you release the handbook, you say, okay, this one we will put out and we'll put, Lito's already working on the high school handbook.
Mhm.
Great, fantastic. And
absolutely.
next year we say, let's add the middle school, and after that, the 2 elementaries, which are mostly identical or should be mostly identical. I hope. In any case, it kind of goes beyond that for policies themselves, right? The point at time where you really need to look at the policy, that you don't want to be waiting 2 hours to find the translation for it. It's immediate if you actually need it. Right. So somewhere in there you have to decide. So is it worthwhile? Now, the question still is it worthwhile putting into this, or is it worthwhile coming back, as Christy said, and saying, look, we're going to go this route. Let's set up a better discussion, spend the 20 minutes it's going to take, which I probably spent too much time now, to put it forth and say, this is our time frame and this is how we get there.
Or how, do we want to get there? I mean, I feel like federal government right now, I think some of this should be determined by sites, depending on what goes on. Philosophically, of course, who doesn't agree with this? The time it takes when we say all correspondence must be done like this, I think it's mind-boggling. And it's an easy thing to state that it's needed. But there are other people of color out there that don't get it. I mean, should Spanish be there? Of course, it's the number one, but are there other languages? I mean, within this district, how many different home languages exist? And what are the expectations? And I do think it's a longer conversation. So at 3 minutes to 10, I don't think this is when we dig in so much. I mean, we can figure out here, but I want to be careful.
Well, it shouldn't hold up our moving this forward. It is a broader discussion.
Yes.
Okay, if you guys think it's maybe a topic for a future agenda item, is that kind of what I'm hearing you say?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Does that feel okay?
I'll bring it up then.
All right, so we've got to do this and then extend the meeting now, please. Public comment on this? Yes, we do.
Hi, I just, I do want to remind the board that it is a privilege to be able to open up any packet from the school and read it in English. And especially for, a district that has, correct me if I'm wrong, the largest growing number of Latina people, I think that it's it is kind of an urgent matter to make sure that, Spanish speaking people can read these brochures and read the information that the school is putting out. So I'd like the board to think about that.
Thank you for your input. Any other public comments at this time? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move to approve the updates to board policy 0410, if I'm getting those numbers right. Non-discrimination in district programs and activities, and board policy and regulations 4030, non-discrimination in employment.
Second.
Okay, the motion was brought up by trustee Brian Swanson, seconded by John Paff. Roll call vote, please. Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we have the issue of the board. You're great at picking the time. We have 1 minute left until it's 10 o'clock. What do we think the
You are-
extension?
You are potentially towards 10:45.
10:45?
That feels right.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion
Have to
to
be.
extend this meeting till 10:45.
There's 2 items.
I'll second.
Okay, so we've moved to extend the meeting by Brian Swanson and seconded by Carolyn Swanson. May we have a roll call vote? Aye.
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 Okay, next we will look at board discussion of AB 361. Dr. Porras?
Thank you, Madam President. This item was brought forward at the request of a trustee, and I think tried to cover it on the cover sheet. Essentially, AB 361 is a law that allows board meetings to continue with flexibility during times of COVID emergency. This is really a COVID-based kind of resolution. Allows the board to continue with virtual meetings and without violation of Brown Act for 30 days and requires renewal after 30 days. And speaking with legal counsel, I wanted to make clear that the design around this particular adjustment for AB 361 is really COVID related. So the intent is that if the district feels that they're moving into a situation where emergency is imminent or close, and it's going to run the risk of not having a physical quorum, or in fact, the entire board is not going to be able to be physically present, they should move forward with this resolution to allow for that virtual meeting. It's not really intended for, if there's just regular illnesses or regular absences. That was not the intent of this particular law. The other piece to bear in mind is that there are certain triggers that allow for this resolution to go into place, and we are currently in a state of emergency by the state that hasn't gone away yet. So that covers the first trigger. The second being that the county has also put us in a situation where they are recommending socially distanced to the extent possible. So it covers that second requirement of the local agencies declaring a state of emergency or need for avoid risks of illnesses based on the pandemic. So those first two triggers are in place, which means that the resolution is allowable. The last one is really determined by the local agency. It's with, does the board believe that at this point in time, it is important to put this resolution forward to address an emergency that is imminent. So really it's up to you in regards to how you want to proceed. At this stage of the game, the other thing to bear in mind is if there's a need for this resolution, the board could easily meet in a 10-minute emergency session to pass the resolution, which would then immediately be in effect for 30 days. So in regards to using it as a preventative measure, legal counsel recommends you may want to take caution in that, because that's not the intent. The intent is if in an imminent emergency. However, again, it's totally up to the board because those threshold markers have been passed. So if the board wishes to do that, legal counsel is prepared to have a draft resolution ready for our school district, along with the proper adoption paperwork ready for the next meeting, or if there's an emergency meeting that the board would like to declare to pass the resolution.
So if there's never a need, it would be sitting on the shelf.
That's
It
correct.
just, we get it ready just in case.
Correct.
Okay.
But otherwise you could pass it. You could ask for this to take place and then put it into effect. Well, really whenever you need or want, as long as these emergency declarations are in place.
Trustee Paff.
At the CSBA conference, part of the Brown Act was about 20 minutes discussion on this particular item in AB 361. Right now, you can meet virtually. There are just some other rules that are in effect to do so, which includes posting. And if I say I'm going to stay at my house, then quite literally, Barbara could come over and say, well, you're talking here, so I get to stay in your living room. Okay, that's very nice. And she would do so to make sure I'm not really watching a football game. So you can do it now without, sorry, Barbara, I shouldn't pick on you. You can do it now without anything with AB 361. It's just the Brown Act's current rules apply. I believe that AB 361 has a hidden poison pill in it, and I really can't support trying to put a resolution in place. I think that it has some items that somebody very cleverly could put in place to ensure that you are now set against the schedule. Public comment has to start at 7:20, has to end at 7:30, and if there's no one talking, you're in that. Now, legal counsel has said, yeah, we think that we can word around that. But I am very, very reluctant to move into a place where we routinely do this. We should try and meet here. If we have to have something for an emergency, then we deal with it on that emergency basis. But on a regular basis, I think it's It's got some peril in it. So,
Trustee Carolyn?
Thank you, President Dawson. So I actually support this for a few reasons. So if we operate without it, we do have to follow standard Brown Act procedures, which means that when Christy just recently zoomed in, you were actually supposed to tape the agenda to your window or front of your home for the proper noticing amount of time.
I had no idea.
And that's my point is there's all these strange little bits and pieces that kind of come into play when we are in this kind of limbo emergency mode. When some of us might be coming in virtually, we might have to immediately go back to virtual. There's just so much going on. And so I checked with some friends of mine in other jurisdictions, like, what did you do with this, you know? And they said they did the resolution, they put it in their consent, and they just recertify it every 30 days. It comes in their consent agenda, and they know that they're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and making sure. The other part of it is if we're in a meeting, and I believe we had a meeting where we didn't have the majority of our trustees. There was a meeting where you and John were both out, and I was virtual, which meant we had
Oh, that's right.
we had Frank and Brian here only. Technically, we're in violation of the Brown Act. And so I don't want us to be in violation of the Brown Act. I think it's really simple. It's once we get it rolling, it's pretty mindless to just kind of keep it going in consent. And I think it would be a good idea.
Brian?
I've got nothing to add at the moment. Thank you.
Dr. Vera?
So this is a resolution we can pass, but still meet in person.
Yes. We just need to make sure that there are other posting requirements for virtual, if someone's virtual, that it's in place, just as Trustee Carolyn just mentioned. So there are postings to make sure that number one, that there's a comment, like we mentioned, that a trustee is meeting virtually today. So the public knows that meeting, that's the case. All agendas would need to have roll call votes for the duration of that while that resolution is in place. For the off chance that a trustee needs to meet virtually, the roll call is required. Some of those kinds of adjustments that come into play.
So it sounds like we've been operating as if we passed, we've been operating in this.
Yes, and as we have right now, we're in person. We're having public comment here in person. We have a virtual accessible to the public. So all of those aspects are in place. If a trustee needs to meet virtually, again, the intent of the law was to meet virtually due to COVID emergencies. So it really isn't supposed to be applied if it's just I don't know, you had an emergency, you couldn't make it here on time. I needed to meet virtually at home. A member of the public could call into question, well, you're not really within the realm of the resolution either, because it's really not a COVID related issue, which is why the emergency triggers are in place. It's allowable to do that, but it's not really the intent of it. But again, that's just, someone would call it a question, we would just address it.
Yeah, that makes me think like, it has to be COVID related. So if someone was feeling ill, but they still wanted to participate in Zoom in, that's not COVID related.
Right. They could still do that under normal circumstances. We just need to make sure that it's clear that they're there virtually, and so that they can participate that way. And we would need to do roll call votes for that.
But if it was last minute, you just stated up front that this person's virtual. I mean,
Right. You'd have to say that the trustee is coming in virtually. Make sure that on the roll call that we normally do, it's noticed, and then all votes go roll call that meeting.
okay. Did you have something else, Tad?
So in fact, you said we potentially had two meetings that we were in violation of the Brown Act. In fact, it might only have been one. I can't remember the exact date of the meeting and the exact date AB 361 was passed, but it was passed in October. So it's not that far back. We're not way out of it. So that particular meeting, maybe. This is not actually AB 361. We're not taking a vote on that. Today is just to provide you direction whether or not to create one.
Correct.
And go forward. It's not even a vote. It's, move forward. Yes,
Well, when you're done, John, I just want
I'm
to
done.
I see it at the moment as unnecessary. I know that what we learned from that one meeting where we maybe didn't do it right, we learned what we would need to do it right in the future. And some of the rules are a little weird. Yeah, having to have the agenda, but who was it again who was taking a meeting from their car once and actually had
Tony
their,
solicitor.
yeah, Tony had it like
He did.
taped to the window of his car. All right,
He
that's
did.
silly, but he did it. It's like there are a couple of little rules and we know what those are now. And in reading through 361 too, it's like it's imperfect as well and confusing and presently unnecessary. And we know that if we do need it, we can bang it out in a heartbeat. So I think there are greater issues at hand that we should be getting to rather than messing around with this one right now.
Okay, so your thought is just wait and do the 10-minute meeting if necessary.
Sí, correcto.
See, correcto. And you're feeling that way too?
I think that there's a big poison pill in AB 361, which will, if someone picks up on it, I mean, you only need the one lawyer to find it. So,
Well,
and I'm not a
okay,
lawyer,
and you
but-
spent a lot of time just now at the conference, which I respect, because that's probably something they have a lot of thinking about and discussion about. Okay, public comment? Okay, so what do I want to do? Do we want it, so we can vote to not move or bring it up, vote on it and say no, 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 like that? Or are you just saying don't take any action?
This is really provide direction to staff. There's no vote necessary to say, please draft a resolution that we can use going downstream. Right? That's the direction you need.
Correct.
We have nothing to vote on tonight either
Okay.
way. So the next 30 days between now and January, what day is it? January 15th, we're out of luck. You haven't done it. So
If you
the-
provide me direction to draft a resolution, I can have that done for you.
yeah.
That would be ready to go in the event that we need to, at any time that the board would like to.
Which doesn't hurt. us
So
a whole
it's
lot.
nice to have that safety boat when we need it. So I would be in favor of drafting the resolution so it's ready for us right when we need it.
He's saying draft, Carolyn's mentioning draft it and have it ready.
I mean, honestly, I'd love to draft it and just plug it into our consent agenda, but I think, yeah, drafting it is a good first step to have it there. Because if we are in an emergency, we're not going to have time to get it drafted.
Sorry if it's in our back pocket when we need it. I'm not, I wouldn't want to move forward with it until we needed it to actually enact it or enable it or whatever the proper verb might be.
Okay, so there's some, consensus. So if you could please draft that
Got it.
and have it, I think, in our back pocket is exactly where we want it. Okay,
I have a question. So who will be kind of the keeper of this task? Like who will be keeping an eye on that we do have a quorum in person and that we, or if we do have someone virtually, that they're well-versed and know that they need to post the agenda? Whose task will that be?
As long as I'm made aware of an absence, we typically try to confirm quorum at every meeting.
Okay.
so
and
my
I'm-
question is, I was up in Dixon in my cousin's office. I would be in 3 hours away and I'd be posting it.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
You'd be required to post it, and technically, as John said, someone could come in to listen if they so desired. Obviously, we don't really
They'd be
push that.
so interested.
But, and technically, we're supposed to also note where you are at specifically, like the address. But we're not going to post,
Wow.
we're not going to post any one of
Interesting.
your address. And to provide some options for the board. No, this was provided ahead of time, so I don't know if you want me to go over each individual one, but it's listed for you.
Where are we now? Are we more in the A, right? The first one? Yeah.
That's probably the closest, yes. For example, on option one, this might be a great example. For option one, it notes that where it says PG staff comments, non-agenda items, we added that a long time ago. And its intent at the time is very different than how it's being used currently. Originally, it was intended to try to allow for the various site administrators to provide updates to the board in regards to what's going on at the sites.
Okay.
And it eventually sort of morphed into any staff member at all. This would be the time versus a regular general public comment. So it kind of veered away from what the original intent was. And so in option one, legal counsel is recommending take this item out. If you're looking for administrators to give those reports, then provide an opportunity for administrative reports or make it a board item in particular. But this generic addition to the agenda is not really necessary.
Gotcha.
So that's an example of what happened here. And that's just a little historical perspective. And then again, you can read through and see some of the various items that are in place.
Board comments?
Yeah, I liked option one, not all of it, but the majority of it. I did like the addition of noting that, each item has public comment. I think that's more clear to the public. I liked the addition. So, well, I don't know, it's not really best for me to line it all out, all in details, but yeah, I did like option one fully. And actually, Ralph, hearing your description about the staff comments, and at first I was really hesitant to pull staff comments off of the agenda. I didn't want staff to feel kind of, like we were not wanting to hear from them or that they didn't have a place. And so that's my only hesitation in removing that. It was interesting at last night's Spreckles meeting to watch that, structure. It was so different. And they did actually utilize this where the CBO, they just kind of at the beginning so like we agendize as a separate item, songs reports, but they just talked about their first interim and the lady was like, yeah, it's not so great financially. And they're like, okay. And then moved on. It was like 30 seconds total. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So that would be my recommendation is to go with option one, but to actually leave the PGUSD staff comments. I like that there's a place for them, and I'm totally okay that they get a moment where we say specifically, hey, staff, please come talk to us.
But would they be able to come up under public comment?
Yeah.
Of course.
So, well, I kind of like a place for admin to kind of share out about their school, what's going on. So if we kept that there and then under public comment, the person would identify themselves as I'm so-and-so from, Forest Grove, and then give their comments.
Yeah, and again, as noted here, you can change that title to be a little more specific. You could put on there administrator reports.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
And they could choose to comment or not.
Right, exactly. And I think that the general staff comments piece, our legal counsel recommended, and I appreciate your comments, Trustee Carolyn, for inclusion. She just mentioned that if you're going to have general staff comments, this is really not, they really should just come under public comments or wait for the agenda items that come up because they're really broad. But if it's an intent for a report, specific reports, then you may want to change it to reports or again, ask them to come during. Again, management doesn't have a problem with keeping it or not keeping it. It was included at a different time, a different era.
What do you think?
Well, I think our staff has not abused this. I think we would do well to put a time limit on it and say, we do ask, and we can do that politely and informally. But honestly, when people come up and they're really not talking about an agenda item, but they're talking about, hey, the robotics team went forth and succeeded in the, Legionnaires robotics in Fresno, they have been using this time. And that to me feels really appropriate and independent of public comment. It is very specifically school related. So I think what's been happening has worked. And as long as no one, one could always abuse public comment, but so far So good.
And we do time it. We do the 3-minute
I
timer.
would like to suggest actually that entire block needs to be rewritten similar to what we received earlier in the day, Ralph. And we should put that out to the rest of the board.
I don't know what you mean.
You don't, because you can get it.
Oh, well, pardon me.
I know. I apologize. Well, I got it at 4:30 or something.
Yeah, I'd love to see it because that was my main, edits were within that paragraph, but it's really hard to describe what those are. So yeah, if we could have that, that would be great.
What Sarah sent us earlier, I think is a much better.
I know she spoke with you separately
Yeah.
from speaking with me, so she may have sent you something that she didn't send me.
Okay, we'll get it out. We don't have to make a change tonight.
So are you
obviously.
saying it follows option one and you like it better?
Well, we're following option one now.
No, I know, but what
And what
the
it is
secret
this,
memo to you, what is
what
it?
just says the public comment of any interest public within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. And it rewrites that to be tighter, in my
The board
opinion.
will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on
Right.
each agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item or the amount of time allocated for the agenda item has elapsed, whichever comes first.
And the reason for that in part is AB 361. We're trying to include people here and anyone also online. And yet it's really much more difficult to delineate that with what we have, in my opinion. So what she sent facilitates an online presence. And again, without seeing it, it makes no sense, but
We trust you though.
don't vote on it that way. That'd be silly.
I do. Okay, so,
But we'll get that for you.
so should we look at that next time quickly, or can that be sent to us and we just make a decision? How do you see this going forward?
If you're asking me,
Yeah,
I think it'd
well,
be
you're the
good
one
to
that
see
saw
it.
I
the,
think you see
I'll
it.
send that little language clip
Send it
to you.
out.
Yeah.
We kind of say, you kind of say, hey, let's follow option one. And then if we need to make changes in there. And Beth pointed out, I want to say 1.5 years ago, that in fact, the public, the PGUSD staff is not in our actual governance list. So we actually have to go back and review that. Not that I remember any of these things, Beth.
that's what I said, institutional memory right here.
I remember saying that. We
were Yeah.
at the middle school library.
Oh
Yeah,
my
in any
gosh.
case, so there are some other things which we should glance through. Again, and we can just follow what we're doing now next month.
Okay, so,
But bring it back. and
people,
do that, as
Brian,
long as
do you
we're in
like
generic agreement.
option one? I mean, in that category, or did you have strong feelings?
No, I don't have any strong feelings towards it at all. I would like to see this other language, but I'm also fine with how we're doing things right now.
Which
It's
is
like,
option one.
Yeah, if
Okay.
that's what option one, yeah, it's like I really did not have the opportunity to delve into all these and put them side by side and take a look, so.
Okay,
If
There
that buys us
is a
more time.
notation, just so you know, on option 3, because this was asked for by an individual earlier. Option 3 clarifies that public comment is also taken prior to closed session. There's like explicit language that says that in here. So obviously we can mix and match, I think. But what I'm hearing is the board is preferring option 1. I am with revised.
Potentially,
Public
maybe
comment.
not, but yeah.
Well, I can always draft it to put the 2 different versions on.
well, that'd be
to
great.
take a look at
And we
that.
can just look at them side by side, see what feels better.
Yeah, well, that's what you see now, but I mean, I think I would try to advise one that's, what I'm hearing is option 1. And then just give the board an opportunity to take a look at varying public comment, the language in the text box
Right.
adjusted, and then to include specific language that public comment on closed session is actually on item 1, 2 as well. So yeah.
I think Carolyn had a comment.
Oh, I was already on. Yeah, I have another possible tweak to the agenda just to see how you guys feel about it. I'm kind of neutral about it, but also I believe we can consider the placement of public comment. So okay, so in other words, for example, so remember the meeting that we had in August where the ASB president resigned and we had a lot of very passionate comments?
Yes.
And so if you remember, the board spoke first and then we had the public comments. Now in that instance, would it perhaps have been better and less
Nightmarish?
Okay, yeah. So
Contentious.
would it, so let's think about this. Would it perhaps have been better if the board had first heard the public comment and then we go through our comments and we can say, what, John?
No, when you're done. I was
Okay.
asking her if I can address.
Okay, and then when the public comment, so that's kind of an idea. So in a normal board meeting where it's like this, which most of them are, it may not make a difference, but in those moments where it's really important to get the temperature of the
lay
audience,
land. Yep.
it could perhaps create less harm. So that's an idea I have.
The trade there is you have meetings where it's much better if the board presents its position rationally up front, right? And a good example of that was March of 20. It was March 2020. It was right after we went virtual.
1980s?
No, but thanks. I'm not that old. The thing is there were a number of people who were up in arms because we were looking at potentially putting a development tax on, and the board pretty much in initial comments said, this doesn't make sense for us right now. We don't want to do it. We're about to put a bond on. And all of those people came forth and said, okay, thanks for letting us know, and moved on. So you have that trade. It's actually the same problem of putting public comment in general at the end. You never really know where you're going to get. I wouldn't want to do that. It's just a
Well-
bad plan. It puts people way too late. So
I agree, yeah.
Well, we knew
It's
going
just-
into
it's
the meeting
mixed.
you're referring to where we were going to go because we'd already gotten wind of it and we knew that wasn't representing us well after we'd passed the bond. To answer your question, yes, it would have been much better,
Mhm.
in my opinion,
Yeah,
because I was addressing one thing and people were addressing something else.
yes.
And then I become a race apologist. I
Mhm.
mean, so for me, that would have been good. Now, should that always be the way it is? I mean, that's that's begs the question. I mean, perhaps when things are volatile, it's definitely better. We knew that was going to be a rough meeting. So maybe at times it's good to do it that
Well, and
way.
that brings up another point, another idea I have, perhaps not related to this, but when we know we're going to have a contentious meeting, I think that whoever's in the presidential role, I think it would be great as a board to coordinate a statement that the president reads out that shows that we're all on the same page in some manner, a very official statement, and then that shows what's going on, and then we can move forward as a board so that we can,
Would that
be a
read at
cohesive team.
during the meeting you're talking about, Caroline?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Salinas Unified High School District did that when they had a contentious meeting. They right off the bat, the president read a statement that the board had contributed to, probably via their superintendent, so they weren't having a Brown Act issue.
Violation,
Yeah,
right.
but you're bringing up that meeting and ignoring the next meeting where that same president was playing the world's tiniest violin and insults to one of the guys speaking.
okay, sorry. I
Where,
went to-
where do you want to go?
Okay, so anyways, I'm done.
Okay, well, so Frank.
Hi,
we
I'm still
left you
here.
out. Get going, Frank, jump in.
I think I like what you guys were just saying right now. The only question / comment that I had was, just like we can pull items off of consent and then address them out of the order they are presented on the agenda, is it possible to have the president in a situation say, we're going to flip public comment, board comments?
Pardon?
Well, Frank, in my opinion, I mean, there's positives and negatives to that. There's a flexibility built in, right? That you can just kind of flip it. The downside is that the agenda's gone out and people have seen that agenda and maybe planning their day around going, okay, well, we're going to get to speak now, and so it's maybe more transparent to keep the agenda on. There you go.
Yeah, and which brings up another comment, and you're going to correct me saying, don't talk about that because it's not right here. Public wanting to comment on items, but then having to wait until 10 o'clock at night to comment something and not knowing when it's on. It would be wonderful for our public at home for somehow, I don't think we could do it on Zoom or screen or something, just to have a note or a flash what item we're on. So someone could have it in the background and go about their home business and say, oh, I'm up. Now it's time for me to make my public comment or join in. Here it comes.
Mandy will take care of that before she leaves tomorrow.
Mandy, you have a few hours. You have a few hours. Okay, so we're looking,
take some public comment.
Oh, I
I'll
was
make
looking
it
the
really
right
quick.
Direction.
I don't know when we stopped having public comment on consent. We always had public comment on consent.
We do it. It's just not noted in
Oh,
there.
okay.
It's like with closed session, it's just not explicitly noted, even
Yeah,
though we do it.
yeah, we've always done public comment on consent and closed session, of course. And also, adoption of the agenda. That too, because that gives the public a chance to say, hey, I can't be here till 10 o'clock. Is it possible for you guys to move this up? And we've done that before too, but that would be the adoption of the agenda section. So anyway, the more public comment you put in there, the better, I think, overall. And you should have 2 meetings a month when you can, because it does take care of the backlog. You're always going to get backlogged. We got 1 meeting in December, you got 1 meeting in January. So you're going to get backlogged, and your special meetings, they don't count. Sorry, they just don't count. Those are added because they are special, because you had to do an expulsion hearing, or
Right.
you had to do something that came up.
All right.
And it's going to be normally a shorter meeting, but I advocate for 2 meetings a month.
Okay. All right. So where are we? That we look to, I think, option 1.
I think option 1.
You have
I'll-
direction,
I did
right?
send you via email the language that we were referring to, so you have it now.
Okay.
I will look to draft option 1. I'll put both those public comments in there
Yes.
so you can see them. And then I'll just add a couple of snippets from the other options that seem like I'm hearing in this. And then we'll have one option to take a look at. We'll go from there. Is that good?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Let's
Yep.
try to look at the review of legal fees, please.
7 minutes.
Yep, we can do it.
Go.
All right, President Dawson. Okay,
Go
this
for
is
it.
Actuals, what we have spent from July 1st through October 31st, $80,995.30. And then the categories, of course, of protected privacy. So they're listed on page 390. Let me see, it's 393.
Got it.
Questions?
Board comments, please. Questions? Trustee Path, you lead us off.
It's going to be an expensive year if we keep that up.
Yes.
Yes, trustee Carolyn?
I do have one quick question. Can you just give me an example of what I see the general board governance fees are, 6,000, 6,000, 8,000, 8,500, 8,200. What's an example of that? Is that when we're asking Sarah Cox about policy questions that I'm bringing up, or what's?
Yeah.
It includes that, and like when there's a board training
Okay,
that comes up, if there's anything that requires a legal counsel's time by 15-minute increments that have to do with governance under that policy, that's what it gets billed to.
okay, so that's general board governance costs, fees. Okay, thank you. That's
And
it.
they roll workshops and that kind of stuff into those fees.
The other workshop, oh, I think I saw that separately, but okay.
Yeah, there will be a few workshops that they'll list separately, depending if it's a workshop that is, there's a legal mandate for it. They'll sometimes list that out, break it out separately, so
Got it.
it's easy to note.
Okay, thank you.
It's a bummer that we have to spend this much, but if we didn't have great legal representation, we would be spending more. That's
Yes,
all I
we
gotta say.
would.
We have a great legal team.
Well said.
Yeah, it's nice. We feel supported. They're here, they're informative, and it's what we've got to do. Well, that's just great. And right now, I'd just like to say, are there any future agenda items?
Well, you have one to come back with
Translation.
translation, and you have another to come back with IT, but the IT is already on the agenda. So
Yeah.
just-
That sounds like February. That's gonna get.
Yes, that's
taken
already.
care of.
I would say,
Yeah, that's already, yeah, they're working on that.
Give me a sign, Ralph.
Oh, wait, no, I'm not done yet.
Oh,
And you have, Ralph, on your list, obviously the agenda format that you were just working on?
Yes, yeah,
That's
I'll
gonna
bring that
come
back. I'll bring that back.
Okay, and then, okay, we got a letter about crossing guard at this middle school.
We're already hiring.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
You knew
We-
I was like elevating
No,
off
no,
my
we,
chair
we,
when I
we had
read that.
actually been working on that for a while. It just, it's
Okay.
finding people has been a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then, okay, related to consent N, which was about advertising positions. This was a brilliant, I thought, stroke of genius from Director Martinez. Can we advertise our positions on the radio, especially there was the English speaking radio and the Spanish speaking radio. I would be in favor of spending board money on recruitment. I know we're shorthanded, and I think that might be a faucet we haven't tapped yet, is the radio.
We used to do that.
Yeah, we want to do it again?
It wasn't very effective, but we can try. Radio is sort of, video killed the radio star.
Okay,
Radio is just not.
so should we have not approved that consent? N for
Well, I think
Barbara?
for adult head's a little bit of a different animal.
Okay.
It really is.
Except for
Than,
students.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Everybody in education knows ed join, there are places you go to find.
you think
things.
that's the only spot, huh?
I don't think it's the only spot, but it's the,
Hold on, John, Chrissy's talking.
We do, just so you know, we do use Indeed. We've been using that. But I will
Okay.
tell you that we got a
Okay.
wash of applications for Mandy's position. And of the 25 that we've gotten so far, there've been like 2 that have been qualified.
Well, yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Okay.
So, but anyway, we're working on those.
Okay, my last question, because we have 3 minutes, so I'm just gonna take one of those.
you don't get it all, girl.
Okay, so song, I see all these vendors come through in the packets, and I know that sometimes we have them add us as an additional insured, but it doesn't look like every time. So can we consider that maybe as policy for having vendors perhaps at a certain level of work that they're doing for us, just be required, the district require them to add us as their additional insured? Okay. And that's it. I'm done.
Anybody else?
Mandy, you want to say
We're
something?
gonna miss you, Mandy.
Close the meeting.
Let's close this meeting.
Mandy, I cannot say thank you enough. I truly cannot.
No, we love you and we're really
Truly cannot.
sad.